You know, 2025's really smacked my ass up crazy style. You ever have a year where it just feels like nothing goes your way? I mean, I sent out like 3,000 job applications over the winter and didn't get anywhere. Then summer went by so fast it might as well have not happened. And now we're almost back at Christmas, and I just got resituated. It's been a shit show for me to say the least. But hey, it could be worse. Yeah, I could be the main character of Megami Tensei Gaiden Shinyaku Last Bible II, Hajimari no Fukuin. What, you don't know what I'm talking about? Well, it's a good thing I spent half my unemployment making this video, because Last Bible's back, and it's gotten a lot more existentially depressing this time around. Released originally on cell phones in Japan on August 18th, 2008, Shinyaku Last Bible II, Hajimari no Fukuin, or Last Bible New Testament II, Gospel of the Beginning, is the 7th Last Bible game, and the second entry in the formerly lost cell phone trilogy. Now, whether you've been with me on this ride from the beginning, or you've never heard about this series in your life, I wouldn't blame you for thinking, man, Marshall, what else can they even really do after so many games? We've seen the rise and fall of gods, demons, and empires over a span of like 60,000 years in the original trilogy. We engaged in a method of digital self-harm by playing the heavily flawed spin-off titles. And we even discovered the origins of the universe in the first Shinyaku game, which turned out to be like one big prequel that revealed everything was created by some Japanese kid who was all but stated to be Akemi Nakajima, the star of the very first Megami Tensei game and the novels that preceded it. Seriously. So like really, what direction can the story take after all that? Well, I guess the devs kinda knew they blew their load with that ultimate revelation. So instead of going forward with the next one, Shinyaku Last Bible II takes you even further back. Look, we're so many layers deep with this Last Bible stuff by now, I'm just gone. On paper, it really sounds like they just ran out of ideas and cranked this thing out to make a few dollars. And maybe they did, I don't know. But the truth is, I liked it just as much as the first. It's actually pretty damn good as far as classic-style JRPGs go. The events of this game take place on the planet Horus, a fantasy world that's on its last legs after being torn apart by violent beasts, a lethal plague, and a mad king. The story is much darker than usual, and follows the journey of a young man on a quest for revenge, who finds himself in the middle of all kinds of cosmic conspiracies. And as always, in true Last Bible tradition, by the time you're at the end of the road here, the stakes have been ramped up to an insane degree. Just like the previous entry, this one was never dumped online for emulation. So after all those old phones had their networking services shut down, short of buying a used device with the game already on it, it was pretty much impossible to get a hold of. At least until 2022, when a Japanese mobile game company called Gmode pulled an unexpected move and re-released it on Steam as well as the Switch, finally making it easily accessible for the rest of time. Or at least until Valve and Nintendo go bankrupt. Once again, we're talking about another game that has never been officially translated, and at the moment has no fan translation patch, or anything like that. We're so far out in the sticks with Megaten that Atlas itself doesn't even acknowledge these games. So why don't we give it a run through and check it out, and see what's really going on here. In this video, we're going to do a full playthrough of Shinyaku Last Bible II, covering story, mechanics, strategies, a few secrets, and whatever else I want to talk about. My intent here, as always, is to get more eyes on a game that's not often spoken about, and in this case, hopefully inspire someone better at Japanese than me to give it a proper translation patch. So whether you want to follow along from start to finish, skip around a bit before you play it yourself, or just learn more about the company that made it, it's all good with me. Now if you want to skip straight to the game, check out the chapters below. Otherwise, let's start things off by talking a little bit about the history behind Megaten on the phone. In my original Shinyaku video, I mentioned that there were a lot of these Megami Tensei cell phone games out there. Well, it's no joke. There are at least 24, and most of them are still lost to time. These games represent just about any series you can name in the franchise, from Persona to Digital Devil Saga to Majin Tensei, and even unique stuff like Atlas Casino. But what I didn't really do was talk about who was behind their production. See, the vast majority are connected to one key company called BBMF Corporation. From what I can find, BBMF was actually initially based out of the US, established in 1992, and they distributed cell phone games all across the world. They've had several different names, overhauls, and acquisitions over the years, and the company still exists today in Japan under the name Beagly, where they primarily seem to distribute manga. We'll just call it BBMF to keep it simple. Now, they ended up getting involved with Megami Tensei in 2004, when the company's Japanese subsidiary was created. Atlus invested some serious money into these guys to get the franchise onto the mobile market, granting BBMF a global license to use Megaten branding and characters. Obviously, I can't exactly crawl into the credits for most of these games to check, since they're trapped on stuff either in a landfill or someone's closet, but it seems like sometimes BBMF would make the games, sometimes they were a publisher alongside Atlus, and sometimes they were both. For the Shinyaku Last Bible series, BBMF's role appears to have been largely publishing related, with the development being handled by a very, very obscure team called Brizo Interactive. To learn about these guys, it's one of those situations where you gotta start going into old, crusty archived web pages. It looks like Brizo was formed in 2003 in Osaka. They employed at one point at least 45 people, and they went bankrupt in 2012, having debt of about 350 million yen. If my calculations are right, in 2012 that'd be just shy of 3 million USD. I always think it's really interesting to read the recruitment page for these old defunct companies, if I can find it, and I was able to here. It's kind of fun to imagine what it would be like applying to a team like this. At the time this page was archived, they had open roles for just about everything: planning, programming, graphics, and debugging. Work was from 10 to 6, and they advertise a whole bunch of time off you get throughout the year, which is something I haven't really noticed on other dev sites. I said this in the Hell Knight video, but it had to be exciting starting off for an ambitious new dev like this. You can find some of the former employees on Moby Games, and many are only credited on the Shinyaku Last Bible series. But interestingly enough, a few appear to be former SNK staff. One person's credited on a Fatal Fury release from this year, and Double Dragon on the iPhone in 2011. The chief directors are connected to several King of Fighters games too. Unfortunately, unlike with Hell Knight, Desperia, or the RPG Maker games I've covered, there doesn't appear to be some big dissertation in a strategy guide, or an interview in a magazine detailing why they made these Last Bible games, or what they were really aiming to do with them. But you know, not everything has to have some grand vision behind it, or at least one that was revealed to the public. I joked earlier that these games might have been made just because, why not? Atlus wanted to spread their influence and someone contacted Brizo to do it. But if the first Shinyaku title is anything to go by, these are hard-working, creative people who were fans of Megami Tensei as a whole, and wanted to make something truly memorable. They're obviously familiar with the core Last Bible trilogy considering the numerous callbacks, and they came up with an awesome way to potentially link the Shinyaku games to Digital Devil's Story of all things. So even if this was a true, hey, we gotta have another game this year, can you do it type of job, I feel like you'd really be able to tell if they just didn't care about it, and that's not the case. The passion's definitely there, and audiences recognized that when these games came out. I discovered recently that between Shinyaku Last Bible 1 and 2, they sold 100,000 copies, or downloads I guess, which is fairly impressive in my mind. 100,000 people bought a phone version of potentially the most unpopular Megaten subseries. As far as I can tell, amongst Japanese Megaten fans, they're generally regarded to be quite good, which is something I wasn't exactly aware of in the first video. And I think that's a good note to get started on. So with that, why don't we dive into Shinyaku 2 and see how things unfold. It's a story that I don't think has ever been spoken aloud in English, and it's one hell of a journey. Start a new game, and things pick up seemingly right where the previous one left off. After enlisting the help of the outer god Sathagwa to journey through space and time in order to witness the birth of a new era for the universe, our old interdimensional wizard buddy Abon is finally satisfied with his research, and now finds himself ready to return to where he belongs. Now right away I gotta clear something up. In the last video I called this guy Avon. Usually with names written in katakana, some interpretation is required. In most other circumstances, my choice would have been a valid translation, but not here. He's actually named after a Hyperborean sorcerer who's a priest of Tsathoggua from the Lovecraft mythos, making this a somewhat rare scenario where the name in English matches 1-to-1 with how it's written in Japanese. I should have caught the reference, but I didn't. What can I say? Anyway, Abon once more calls upon the mysterious ancient being for help, and without a word, his wish is granted, as he suddenly finds himself hurtling through space-time yet again. And you can tell he's traveling through time because there are clocks everywhere. Gotta love it. Abon's flight back home is all good for a few seconds, but then, out of nowhere, there's a bright flash, and everything screeches to a halt as a voice calls out to him. Rightfully very confused, our guy's new focus becomes trying not to shit himself as he wonders who could even be capable of finding him and doing something like this. You gotta imagine, being forcefully ripped out of the time stream or whatever probably doesn't feel too good. A few tense moments pass before the voice is revealed to be the goddess of Legaia, who helped the protagonist of the previous game, Louis, on his rise to become the universal will and rule over creation. Now, if you're familiar with that game, then you should remember that she died in the process of doing so, which can only mean we're in the past before all that happened. What's really weird about it though, is that she remembers Abon, even though they technically at this point in time haven't met yet. She and Abon are kind of beyond time, if that makes sense. Just try not to think about it too much. The goddess seems weak, and practically demands that Abon go to the assistance of another youthful hero in the making, warning that the bad guys pulling the strings behind this one are extremely powerful. The goddess then tells Abon that in the entire universe, only he can be trusted with this task, and without any choice in the matter, he's suddenly teleported elsewhere. With that, we switch away from Abon's perspective, and it's time for this adventure to really kick off. So what's the big deal with this kid, the protagonist, that Abon's gotta save? Well, it's not just another hero, it's literally Louis from the first game. Different planet, different time period, slightly different design, but the same soul. An older incarnation of the same person. And that means if we don't survive the next 50 hours of turn-based JRPG action, Shinyaku 1 can never take place, and that's just not okay, man. When we're finally put in control, it's another peaceful day living in the forest on the planet Horus, as our younger sister nudges us awake. We're then prompted to choose a name for our character. Interestingly, in the last game you had a preset name, Louis, like I've been saying. But here, I guess it's completely up to you because the shit's totally blank. Since we kinda already know who we're supposed to be, I didn't really want to give him some completely different name, so I decided to be a little funny and just use it again but with a different spelling. Shinyaku 2 thankfully still supports English language input, so for those of you who don't know any Japanese, I'm going to be taking advantage of that with the nameable characters, so you can at least keep tabs on when they're being mentioned on screen. You know, if you're into that. Once we're finished up here, our sister, whose name is shown to be Lana, excitedly offers to fix our hair for us, before jokingly saying it's about time we learn to do it ourselves. Today happens to be a very special occasion in the household. Not only is it our birthday, it's Lana's birthday too. And as we get out of bed, she happily tells us about her gifts. A monster mask from Dad, and a brand new flute from Mom. Unable to contain herself any longer, Lana runs outside to the garden to play, and leaves us to get situated for a minute. Guess it wouldn't hurt to check in on our parents before we join her. Well, right across the room, in another bed, we have our very elderly looking mother, who wishes us a happy birthday and tells us how proud she is of the life the family's built up here. A while back, our father made the decision to leave the city and live in the wilderness because of the deadly plague sweeping across the world. Our mom here actually has this plague, and has to take medicine distributed by some holy king. She doesn't seem to be doing that great, honestly, but she maintains a positive attitude anyway. Our father sits at the dining table, and also wishes us a good day, before reflecting on how it's been over a dozen years now since a man named Cain, who previously ruled the entire world, lost his mind and became known as the Mad King. After that little incident, violent creatures began roaming the countryside, and the plagues intensified. It's only thanks to this other guy, the Holy King, that any hope is left in the world at all. Dad kinda rambles about this for a minute before stopping and then giving us a look. He's right about to tell us something important, But then from outside, we suddenly hear Lana playing her new flute. Rather than talk our ear off all morning on our birthday, our father decides we should all just go outside and join her instead. Out in the garden, the whole crew's assembled, even Mom, as Lana stands there with her mask on and puts on a show. She even shouts out trick or treat for some reason. I assume because of the mask, right? But it's pretty funny and kinda comes out of nowhere. It's like when we played Desperia and that random ass dude just screamed Merry Christmas. So Lana plays some music, everyone laughs, and we spend the whole day out there just messing around. Eventually it starts to get dark, and Dad tells everyone to head back in before the monsters come out. Back inside, the family gathers around the table for a minute, before Lana realizes, oh shit, she left her flute out in the garden and has to run off to get it. No sweat, right? It's just a few steps out the door. Dad even follows behind her like 2 seconds after, just to make sure everything's okay. But nope, it is not in fact okay at all. From inside, we can hear our father erupt into sheer panic. In what couldn't have been more than just a few moments, Lana has seemingly completely vanished from the property with no trace. The next few days go by in a blur, and things pick back up when our father's finally decided he can't take it anymore. One quiet morning, when our mom's still in bed, he hands us a short sword and some old leather armor, and apologizes for not giving them to us on our birthday. Dad thinks Lana's been kidnapped, or worse, and tells us he's just too old to handle this on his own. We need to go find out what happened, and she has to be somewhere nearby, because the old way leading back to the city has been blocked off for a while. As he thanks us for our help, he also curses the Mad King for making this possible to begin with. And it's all on us from here on out. Well, alright, let's do it. Now you know what kind of game this is. As soon as you leave the house, basically, you're gonna get jumped by some freaky fuckers in no time at all. And that's gonna happen on average every 5 seconds that you're not in a safe area. Yeah, as usual for the Last Bible series, we've got to deal with random battles. And the encounter rate here in Shinyaku 2 is a bit on the high side, I'd say. Thankfully, just like the first one, the battle system can be surprisingly fun, and they've changed a few things to make it even better. Let's check it out. So, by and large, mechanics are like 90% the same thing as the last game, but that 10% they changed actually kinda redefines the whole damn thing. So I'm just gonna have to lay it all out there again and point out what's different. As always, when you roll up on some monsters, you'll have a variety of options at your disposal. You can fight, have the battle play out automatically, try to run away, try to talk with your enemies, organize your party, or view your allies' stats. Choosing to fight allows you to select between your standard weapon attack, using a spell or skill, using an item, or defending. Now right away, there's already something new here to talk about. In the original Shinyaku game, you only had spells. One of the big selling points, if you will, for this game is that there are now skills too. Each of the human party members that you get throughout the story have their own unique abilities that can be unlocked through progression, including the protagonist. And you'll notice that even recruitable demons seem to have much larger movesets than before. Now, spells and skills both require MP to use, so from a resource management standpoint, they're kind of the same thing. But you have far more options now, and as we play through, I think you'll see these new additions really open the door for you to strategize in ways you simply couldn't in the previous game. Like, let me give you an example. The protagonist here eventually learns a skill called Gaia Break that lets you unleash a really strong attack that uses a big percentage of your total MP instead of a specific value like a spell would. Then there's another party member we'll meet way later that has a skill where he can absorb all incoming damage for the entire team for a single turn. Now if you get both of those working together in tandem with the right setup, some good healers, some heavy armor equipped, and some items to restore your MP, you can really just take bosses to town and wreck shit in ways you never thought possible. And that's just one example of how skills can synergize. By the end of the game, they're pretty much expecting you to figure out how to exploit the combat system like that. Some of these bosses get completely absurd with what they can do to your team. You might say adding some moves and making each of the main characters feel a bit more unique sounds like a relatively small change. And I guess it is, but it has huge results because this is probably one of the most tactical Last Bible games there is. Even more than the one that was literally a tactics game. These new skills play into how you want to allocate your stat points as well. and we'll get into that pretty soon. Our next two options after fighting, like I said, are auto-battling and running away. Pretty obvious what those do, I think, and there's nothing new here, so let's just dive into negotiation and demons. You might notice sometimes I say monster in this video and sometimes I say demon. I'm also going to say beast too. That's a Last Bible thing if you're not familiar. They use some varying terminology in these games to differentiate it from the mainline series. Now, as a side note, in this opening segment of the game, you can't really do any talking or party building just yet, but all the stuff I'm about to go through will become relevant very soon. Alright, so the negotiation system. I'm sorry to say it, but once again, it's what I like to call the shitty system. For whatever reason, the quality of demon interaction mechanics varies wildly across the Last Bible series. In fact, I think Last Bible II and Last Bible III are the only games that even somewhat resemble a mainline title in terms of conversational depth. In these two, you can barter with treasure, give out money, and negotiate to get an enemy to join your side. But in Last Bible I, Last Bible Special, Shinyaku I, and now Shinyaku II, talking with demons is just a series of a few yes or no questions, and that's it, every single time. Answer all of them in a row the way that demon wants to hear them, and it becomes your ally. Get even one wrong, and your ass just got rejected. If you have other party members, it is possible for them to negotiate in your place, but in my experience at least, it usually wasn't worth it. To make matters worse, the amount of possible questions you can be asked is shockingly small, meaning personality-wise, demons don't feel very distinct from each other whatsoever. Their moveset is really the only thing making them different. I have no idea at this point, 7 games deep, why they still didn't drop this system. I've said it before, but what's the point of keeping it when you have an objectively superior model from fucking 1993? I tried to rationalize the decision. Like, maybe because this game was released on the phone, they wanted to conserve storage space or something? Like they just couldn't fit something more complex? But that doesn't really make sense because the story's pretty long and has a lot of dialogue already. I don't get it. And I honestly think the fact that they didn't seem to improve on negotiation at all is Shinyaku 2's biggest flaw. Look, it's not the worst system ever, okay? It's tolerable. It probably won't kill you to put up with it. But that's the nicest thing I can personally say about it. Fortunately, while conversation is still a low point, once you actually have some demons, they've introduced a couple new customization options that are pretty cool. For starters, demons can now equip human accessories to augment their capabilities. Weapons and armor are still off limits, but if you pick up a necklace or a scarf or something like that, it's fair game, and you should take advantage of it. Some accessories have insane effects, like boosting a particular stat by 50 points, which can help you compensate for a demon's weaker aspects. You got some that multiply your attack power or your magic. There's one that lets you act first during combat no matter what, and a lot more. It's fun to experiment with these and try to build up a perfect team with no weak links. On top of that, you also now get the ability to straight up spend money to increase a demon's stats if you want. Demons in this game cannot level up, so if you get attached to one and just can't let go, there's a place where you can juice it up a bit and keep it with you for a while longer. There is a limit to how much you can upgrade. You can only boost like 100 stat points max per demon, and it gets expensive. But if you got a favorite with a really great moveset, well, you got options now. I was kinda concerned at first that this would make the game way too easy, like pay your way through instead of actually strategizing. But ultimately, dropping like $100 grand to get some rando demon to 99 agility isn't gonna make that much of a difference if you're playing like ass anyway, so I don't think it upsets the balance too heavily. The last thing I want to touch on with demons is fusion. Fusion in Shinyaku 2 is still about the same as the other Last Bible games, the bog standard. You smack 2 demons together to get a different one. This game continues the tradition of no Cathedral of Shadows existing too. One specific character that joins the party can fuse for you, and that's it. But with the new customization available, at least you've got more incentive to play around with it. At the end of the day, I'd say the overall demon experience is undeniably better. It feels like less of an afterthought this time, although it still leaves a bit to be desired. For a game that was originally sold for like 500 yen though, it could be a lot worse. At least it's not like what they did in 2. Rounding out the combat system, Organizing your party lets you call demons in and out of battle, and adjust your unit order. Units placed near the top supposedly get hit more often, and units placed near the bottom supposedly get hurt less. I didn't really notice a difference in this game, so I can't say how true that is, but you might as well keep it in mind regardless just in case. And last up, finally, it's everyone's favorite, your team's stats. From the top, we have endurance, intelligence, strength, speed/agility, and luck. Endurance boosts your HP and makes you more resistant to physical attacks. Intelligence boosts your MP and makes your spells hit harder. Strength makes you hit harder with weapons. Speed determines what order your team attacks in, and luck increases your chance of landing critical hits, as well as avoiding status effects. Just like Shinyaku 1, in this game your power increases exponentially as you level up more and more. From levels 1 through 19, each time you level up, you get 1 stat point you can allocate however you like. But then from levels 20 through 39, you get 2 points. Then from 40 to 59, you get 3 points. From 60 to 79, you get 4 points. And from 80 to 99, you get 5 points. By the end of the game, you're going to be a killing machine no matter how you distribute these things. But you might wonder if there's an optimal way of doing so. See, in the first game, a really good strategy was to do a luck build. I wouldn't say most Megaten games are like that, but in Shinyaku 1, boosting your luck made it so that you were popping crits all the time, and it really was worth it. But here, you don't need to rely on critical hits to put out crazy damage, because they added all those skills that can crank out like 6 digits worth if you set your team up properly. So in my opinion, in Shinyaku 2, it's generally a better idea to just focus on endurance, strength, and speed for your physical attackers, with the occasional point towards intelligence to boost up that MP. For your magic users, just flip it around a bit. Most of your points towards intelligence and speed, and a bit towards endurance every now and then. This worked great for me, although if you really want to do a luck build, I imagine it's still viable. And that about sums up the core mechanics and differences from the previous game. I'll mention a few more features that pop up as we see them, but yeah, all in all it's pretty solid and a decent bit of fun. If they could have just improved the negotiation a bit more with these Shinyaku titles, honestly, they might come close to being as good as some of the console Megaten games. Alright, well, we better focus up and get back to finding our sister. The place you're looking for is this path leading up into the mountains. There's really nowhere else you can go on this stretch of land besides that, so take out a few monsters, level up a bit, and once you feel ready, it's time to take a hike. Our first little tutorial dungeon here is called the Mount of Olives, named after the place Christ ascended to heaven. There's a ladder leading up to a series of caves, and you just have to wander through until you reach the summit. If shit gets nasty and you're worried about dying, you can heal here at the spring on the bottom floor, or if you really want to, you can actually run all the way back home and sleep there. Aside from some medicine you can grab about halfway up, it's a straight shot, and there's really not much else to say. The whole way up, Lana's nowhere to be found, and when we get there, a bizarre scene unfolds in front of us. There are these 2 orbs sitting up here, and when we get close, the whole screen just goes totally blank for like 10 seconds. And just like that, now there's 3 of them, all different colors. Take a step closer, and the purple one flies off. Another step, and the golden one follows along with it. The white one stays behind, and what looks like some kind of ghostly white woman pops out, who's described by the protagonist as a beautiful sight. The woman quickly stands when we try to wake her up, and immediately says she has no idea where she is or what's going on. As soon as we tell her our name though, it's like something clicks instantly. After hearing it, she earnestly tells us she believes she was born here in this very moment specifically so we could meet. I guess the other 2 had to get home for lunch then? I mean, they aren't even alive yet, and they've already decided to get as far away from me as possible. Somehow, our new friend can sense what we really came here for, and she urges us to go back down to the bottom and look at a wall on the first floor that we previously overlooked, before warning that we're not gonna like what we see when we get there. Shit. So you go back, you kick down a false wall, and right behind it is the kidnapper's lair. Except I should say killer, because he ate our sister and took her stuff. As we rush inside, this dude runs up wearing Lana's mask, punches us, stares for a second, and then just bolts out of the room. And that's it. There's no more dialogue here, no reaction from the main character. Lana's dead, and after retrieving her pendant out of her bones, all that's left to do is walk home in silence and try to think about how you're gonna break the news. When I first saw this part, my jaw kinda dropped. It actually surprised me a bit. I don't know, I just wasn't expecting the reveal to be so fucked up, I guess. I mean, Last Bible can get pretty crazy, you know, but it's usually not walking in on a guy silently standing over your child sister's remains kinda crazy. This scene pretty much sets the tone for the rest of the game. As a matter of fact, things are right about to get a whole lot worse. When you arrive back on the property, a once peaceful sound rings out that's now just about enough to make your blood run cold. It's Lana's flute. The killer is in our house, and he's just finished up playing that same song from a few days ago in front of our parents before attacking and seemingly killing both of them. From here, the game starts referring to this guy as the Piper. He turns around and stares at us again, and then rushes us while gurgling or barking or something. And then it's time for a boss fight we have about a snowball's chance in hell of winning. I don't think it's possible to get in a single hit here. Maybe there's some way of lasting a couple turns at most, but unfortunately, no matter how you cut it, you're about to be another notch on the Piper's scoreboard. In no time at all, you're wiped out on the living room floor, and then he stands there screaming over your corpse. It's really looking like all hope is lost at this point, until the ghostly woman beams in out of nowhere and tells the Piper off, saying that she'll never let such a vile beast get away with killing us. Now strangely, she doesn't hurt him or anything. She just tells him to leave, and without much protest, he does. The woman casts a spell after this and brings us back to life, sadly explaining that while our wounds were able to be healed, our parents are too far gone and there's no way to save them. She finally remembers now that her name is Queen Mistra, but she still isn't really sure of anything else. Mistra then decides that she needs to travel the world to find out why she's truly arrived here. But first, she'd like to grant us a couple of gifts. You know what, sure, let's open presents while our parents are dead in the back of the room. The first one is nothing less than a demon summoning computer, which Mistra promptly slaps on our arm. She says that while people on this planet have no concept of machines, we know damn well what a demon is, and tells us to use it to gain their support. Cool, right? But like, where'd she even get this thing? It's treated so nonchalantly, just like the first Shinyaku, which just makes it all the more mysterious. Her second gift is to allow our father to deliver his final message to us, so we actually do get some closure here. Mistra temporarily revives him, but says it won't last very long, and then she disappears after saying she'll be watching over us. As our father regains consciousness, he's unable to see anything, and tells us to honestly answer if the rest of the family survived. You actually do get a choice, and I did decide to give it to him straight. It sucks, but I figure we should at least respect him and not lie about what happened. Of course, he's crushed to hear the news, and that leads into the big reveal, along with his last request. On the same day the ruler Cain became the Mad King all those years ago, our father found us at the top of the Mount of Olives. This isn't our real family at all, but they loved us and raised us as their own. It seems like we're somehow linked to everything that's going on, and before fading away, our dad hopes that we'll seek out the king for ourselves and personally end his life to avenge what happened here today. I told you this game doesn't mess around. I mean, can you imagine the emotional roller coaster of losing your whole family in a day, being murdered, and then being brought back to life by an alien who warps into your dining room and straps an iPad to your arm? And then you find out you're adopted. I mean, holy shit. Well, the Mad King's waiting, and if we can catch the Piper, that'd be nice too. I guess a good start would be finding our way to the nearest city. When we leave the house this time, the prologue's officially over, and we get a proper intro to the game. On the plague-stricken planet of Horus, the ruler Cain, who once united the world, went insane after the death of his wife. The Mad King created demonic beasts and spread despair with his tyranny, and he's only resisted by the holy king Abel. So Cain and Abel, you get it? These two kings both believe that in the future, children of the gospel will arrive, one from each side, to influence the world. What they don't know is there's another factor at play that's going to upset the balance. Us. Once again, it's time for a new hero to rise up from nothing and change everything, in yet another iteration of Last Bible II. I love how the Shinyaku games try to name drop it like that, and it's kind of badass. Anyway, from here, you'll want to walk to the northeast edge of the piece of land we're on, where you'll find a cave with a passageway that leads over to a nearby continent called Vieta. It turns out the Piper went this way too, and he shanked the guy responsible for opening the road back up. Yeah, sadly he's not going to make it either, but he's able to speak long enough to ask if we'd avenge him, just like our dad. Man, if things keep going at this rate, I'm going to be avenging the entire world before too long. That damn Piper works pretty fast. So this cave is extremely small. It only consists of one floor. You got a couple chests, a healing spring, and that's it. Now since we have the summoning computer, there is some work you can do. It's probably a good idea to try and get some recruits while the stakes are still relatively low. I just walk back and forth next to the healing spot until you can manage to pick up one or two. In the early game, demons aren't really going to do much of anything for you except take some hits and then die. That's okay because every little bit of help counts. Once you reach the far side, you've made it to Vieta, where you'll then need to head west for a minute until you find a small settlement called Alf Town. You know Alf, right? Well, the name here matches exactly with how they write it on this Season 1 DVD, so I'm just gonna have to assume it was meant to honor his legacy. Rest in peace. At a glance, it seems like it's all quiet here, but you don't get to take even 2 steps into the place before Abon materializes into existence from nowhere and flies into a house head first. So the goddess couldn't, like, teleport him right side up so he wouldn't crush his skull? I mean, come on, dude. After sliding off the roof and landing on his back, the villagers are like, what the hell was that? And they end up taking him to the hospital. This scene is complete tonal whiplash to what was happening a few minutes ago. Gotta love some post-traumatic slapstick. Before we go check on Abon, how about we take a spin through the village first and see what else is up? You can gather from the people outside that things aren't really going too well for anyone lately. The monsters roaming the wilderness are a huge threat, and the Mad King keeps raising the taxes higher and higher. Everyone's trying to stay positive, but it's not easy when nothing seems to improve. There's one soldier stationed here from the Holy King's army, and he says the situation is actually better than it used to be, but it's still rough. On top of that, apparently this Holy King has only been seen in person a handful of times, and by a very limited selection of people. Our mom said he makes plague medicine, so maybe he's busy in the lab, I don't know. It's pretty weird though, and something to keep in the back of your mind. As you walk around, you're going to realize fast that most of the buildings are locked. The vast majority of houses throughout the game are actually just for decoration, to give the setting scale, I guess. But the funny thing is not all of them are, so you still need to go door to door and check. In the first Shinyaku, I remember some houses were like this, but it didn't feel like quite as many. Now, the reason for this, I assume, was to avoid wasting time designing things that have no correlation to the plot, but the NPCs give you a pretty creative reason in-game for why it's like that. Think about it, there's disease going around, right? So not too many people are just gonna let someone into their house. I really like it, and I know it's just a simple hand wave, but it's an immersive way to acknowledge the limitation. The only things you're really guaranteed to have access to if you see them are inns to restore your health, banks to store your items, and equipment shops. And even then, sometimes those are closed too. Once you've done your rounds and you're satisfied, head on over to the massively overcrowded hospital, and we're told that Abon's still out cold. Sure enough, there he is laying on the floor in a corner. Jeez. The guys up front tell us it might be a better idea to talk with a visiting physician's assistant instead, who may be able to give us a way to wake him up. This assistant happens to be in the very same house Abon initially bounced off of. He works with the Holy King's army and helps out a guy named Dr. Marlowe, who isn't here at the moment. We're told Marlowe's interested in checking out the land where we used to live, but they turned back because it was blocked off earlier. The assistant's pretty busy with something else now, and he basically blows us off after that. But once he realizes we lived there, he explains Abon can be healed with magic water from a nearby spring, naturally guarded by monsters. He practically begs us to go and get it so we can heal Abon, hoping that we'll tell him everything that's been going on in exchange. Seems fair enough, I guess. This magical water can be found only a bit further off to the west, inside of a fairly large cave. At least larger than the microscopic stuff we've been seeing so far. You could call this the first real dungeon in the game. If you haven't been able to gather any allies, it's gonna be hard to make it very far inside without getting shat on repeatedly. I mean, look at this, 5 kobolds? Really? Give me a break, dude, I'm not ready for that. The game loves to drop these fat-ass stacks on you over and over again. And it's not a big deal once you got some levels under your belt and a solid team, but early on it's gonna be kinda rocky for a while until you're really settled in. When you're finally strong enough to reach the end, the boss turns out to be the endlessly reviving Phoenix. Except it won't actually come back to life unless you leave the dungeon and come back, which renders its entire gimmick completely pointless as long as you don't forget to grab the water on the way out. If you're familiar with this series, then you should remember that a scenario a lot like this happens in both Shinyaku 1 and the original Last Bible. Having to collect water and deal with a phoenix in a Last Bible game is about as much of a recurring gag on this channel as fighting a minotaur, but for whatever reason it's not nearly as funny. As you can see, it's not too bad of a fight. It can easily be done with only 2 demons on your side, but you might cut it a little close. With a full team, it should be a complete walk in the park. After it's all over, head back to town, drop off the water, and the assistant gets right to work with Abon after we tell him all about the Piper. Abon quickly regains consciousness, but he's really confused at first and actually thinks we're Louis from the first game. He doesn't understand how we could be standing in front of him after we became the Universal Will. It doesn't take long for all of his memories to come back though, and he briefly comments that our hairstyle this time is a bit more avant-garde than our future incarnation. For just about the entire rest of the game, Abon decides to stay here in town and support our team however he can. This is where you unlock the ability to boost demon stats with money. You'll probably be coming back here a few more times at minimum to prepare for difficult bosses and other things that go down in the endgame. Abon also teaches you the Enroll ability, which lets you record demons into an encyclopedia for his research. It's up to you if you really want to do this, but it lets you view enemy stats, and you'll get some free items as an incentive. We won't be required to see Abon after this for a long time, but he does end up playing an active role in the story, much more than the first game. Things just haven't quite escalated enough yet. Leaving Alf, you'll now want to head west again, and then north, wrapping all the way around these mountains to the east until you reach Vieta Castle Town. You start off on this walkway leading up to the walls, and there's this bizarre cabin out front that's full of, no joke, Power Rangers. Now I know some of you guys are already going apeshit and destroying your furniture because I called them Power Rangers instead of Super Sentai or whatever the hell, but look, they're literally called the Hour Rangers. Like they took the P off the front. They act really silly too, and some kid outside implies they're all LARPer bums that don't contribute to society. This whole thing is obviously super out of place and doesn't really fit into the setting at all, but the point of coming in here is that these guys offer tutorials to help you learn game mechanics. I guess the devs wanted to make it comedic so people would pay attention. Regardless, back out in the real world, things are still as bleak as ever. You can pick up some more information about the plague from some people who actually let you inside their house. The average life expectancy once you have it is around 10 years, and your only hope of living out those years with manageable pain is if you can get the Holy King's medicine. The plague is so bad that it completely destroys your body down to the bones until you simply can't move. Sounds awful. There's also a rumor about a demon called Ares who's taken over a nearby mine and completely halted resource production for the city. Naturally, that means they can't pay taxes to the Mad King either, but it sounds like something we might be able to take care of. Before leaving, if you can afford it, it's a good idea to snag the broadsword from the weapons shop for a decent upgrade. From here, we're going to check out the castle real quick, and then head over to the mines. It turns out the situation in the castle is pretty chaotic at the moment, and everyone's in the middle of finding out what exactly happens when you don't pay taxes in this world. There's a squad here from the Mad King's army, headed by some orange-haired warrior named Ein, going around beating up guards and harassing Vieta's rulers. Traveling with this squad is no less than the gospel child of the Mad King's army, Leon, the Mask of Death, who does have a preset name that can be changed, so I'll switch it to English. Now as a quick note, I'm kinda taking a liberty with that Mask of Death title. I think more accurately, it's like Mask of the One Who Calls Forth Death, which just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. In English at least. Anyway, when it finally comes out that the reason nobody's paying up is because of that demon Ares, Leon gets assigned to run off and deal with it, since these people can't do it themselves. Ein tells Vietta's king that just because demons exist now, that doesn't mean he should let them do whatever they want, and basically rips him a new asshole for being so incompetent. Ironically, despite his threatening title, Leon seems a bit nervous to go up against Ares by himself. Just as they're all about to leave, unfortunately, Ein notices us standing there watching like an idiot, and he can feel our Gaia power levels. His other two friends, Rin and Sato, can detect it as well. And unwilling to let an opportunity like this slip, he instantly challenged us to a duel. Oh great, okay. This one goes even worse than the fight against the Piper. Ein kills all of our units in a single turn, and then we're sprawled out on the floor in front of everybody. Seemingly a bit disappointed, Ein has Sato heal us up, and then they leave, promising to be back very soon. You know what would be pretty funny? What if we got there before Leon did and stole the kill from him? Worth a shot, right? Let's see if we can be really petty and get back at him. On your way out, if you're really interested in dying again, the guards have a Cerberus chained up in the basement. This is like a bonus battle for much later. You just can't win yet, no matter what you do. Cerberus is normally a random encounter that appears at the tail end of the game. But if you haven't had enough of getting knocked out yet, he's here for you. The mines are a short walk to the northeast of the castle. When you get there, you find Leon lurking near the entrance, anxiously trying to convince himself to go further in. He really isn't the hero everyone makes him out to be. Maybe we actually will be able to sweep this whole thing right out from under him. This dungeon consists of 2 small floors, with the usual basic treasures scattered throughout. Money, medicine, and that kind of thing. Ares is pretty easy to track down, and funnily enough, smacks Leon out of the way like he's made of cardboard. I was thinking there might be a scene where he pulls himself together and just completely blows the house down, but it seems more like he's built up a reputation solely based on his appearance and title. Well, Ares might look threatening, but I had an easier time with him than the Phoenix, if you can believe it. I came in here with one of my guys just straight up dead and still managed to win. Ares can dish out moderate damage, but it's easy to keep up with if you have some healing supplies. All you really have to do is just swing and heal until it's over. By now, you've probably learned a healing spell too from leveling up, which should make it even easier. When Ares goes down, one of my least favorite things in all of video games happens. He kills you anyway. It's just not fair. I had him cooking me breakfast in a maid costume and you're telling me he won? This is all to establish Ein, who runs in to rescue us both, as the ultimate badass and the real driving force behind the Mad King's army. Leon might be like the face of it, but Ein is the actual dick and balls, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm not really super knowledgeable about this kind of thing, but Ein is designed to be a very Japanese character. And it might sound funny to say that because it's a Japanese game, but he acts like someone who stars in a period drama. He loudly announces his full name for everyone, which is Ein Lovecraft, by the way. And drums play in the background as he delivers a dramatic speech about being the Mad King's right-hand man. Then he knocks over Ares in a single blow with his special technique. So sadly, we couldn't steal their thunder, but at least Ein kinda respects us now for holding out as long as we did. I mean look, from my perspective, it was a complete massacre, but okay, we'll go along with it. Back at the castle, the whole gang's waiting, this time with new information. Ein completed a background check on us and found out we're plotting to murder the Mad King. Oopsie! I mean, who even told him about it? It must have been that damn doctor's assistant, because he's like the only one living that should even know about it. You'd think they would just kill you on the spot right after that, but nope. Ein's just like, okay buddy, you want to give it a shot? Take Leon with you, and good luck. Seriously, he's just totally cool with it, which even shocks all of his friends. Ein's very self-aware that nobody around here likes the Mad King at all, and he's taken an interest in our power. I guess he thinks Leon can learn a thing or two from us, and yeah, I don't know. I can't decide if he wants the Mad King dead himself, or if it's all just some big gimmick to test us. All he says is that he trusts his master's word, which doesn't really explain anything yet. So just like that, the Mask of Death is now on our side. We're also given a world map, as well as access to a warp shrine to the north so we can continue our journey. It's like a starter kit for committing treason. After the others clear out, one of the first things Leon does is ask if we'd be his friend, because he doesn't have any. Of course I said yes. I'm really starting to feel bad for this guy. He also warns that the next continent over, called Din, is home to the Holy King's army, so we'd better watch out. Leon's more of a magic-aligned character, except he doesn't really learn too many useful spells at all for a long while. He carries this huge-ass sword too, but he can barely lift it, and his strength stat starts off incredibly low. I'd say you can take your pick with stat distribution. I pretty much went full magic for a long time, which does pay off many hours from now, when he finally gets access to truly powerful abilities. Until then, you're just gonna have to accept that there's a mediocre fighter in your party. Well, head north, and when you reach the shrine, you'll find another guy dying on the ground. Surprise, surprise, the Piper just passed through here too, and of course, we just missed him. Leon admits that he knows all about what happened to us already from what I dug up, but he seems willing enough to help us track him down. He also again warns about the Holy Army's presence up ahead, and says we could run into their gospel child, the Holy Maiden Luna, who you're given the opportunity to rename now before we even meet her. That's right, there was a Lana, and now there's a Luna. So that's Lana, Louie, Leon, and Luna. A lot of L's in this game. And you know, the protagonist of the original Last Bible was named L, and the protagonist of Last Bible Special was named Motel, and in Last Bible 3 you're named CL. Like, what the hell's going on? Besides the obvious, L means God, I feel like there's some kind of conspiracy to it. Anyway, I digress. The Din continent is one of the biggest in the entire game, with a fair amount of locations available to you right off the bat. Straight south from the Warp Shrine, you'll see a city surrounded by trees and mountains. This is the city of Arcadia, but it's blocked off, so you might as well not even bother for now. There's a smaller place nearby called Kama Village that you can get into, but it doesn't serve much of a purpose beyond being a small checkpoint to resupply at. The mood seems slightly lighter down here because it's Holy King land and it's a little more under control than other places, but it's still not perfect. There are rumors of distant caves with monsters that'll bring us certain death, as well as other dangerous locations further south. Some of the guards even say that down in the bigger cities, the people are totally brainwashed and just believe whatever the Holy King spits out. The man himself is supposed to be in Arcadia, but with it totally inaccessible, and the fact that he never comes out, it's starting to sound pretty damn suspicious. A short walk east of Kama Village has you come across the Holy Army's HQ. It looks about identical to those Grand Cross encampments from the first Shinyaku. Not a pleasant memory by any stretch, but at least it's not so damn huge this time. The guards at the gates somehow don't realize that we've got the Mask of Death with us, and they just let us walk right in. There are a whole bunch of soldiers standing around in a central room, and you can gather that there's an important guy called Archbishop Maxwell who deals directly with the king. One of these dudes also oddly comments that Holy Maiden Luna goes around wearing a skirt that's way too short. And he also explains that she works together with her brother who leads the army. Not really sure how the first part concerns me, but I appreciate the second half. We can find all of these important people arguing in a back room. Luna's angry with the Archbishop and her brother because they refuse to send aid to a place called Stegma Village. Now just for a sec, let me pause so I can talk about what Luna's brother's name is. It's another one of these names that I thought was kinda tricky. So here we go. It's written like this, and it'd be pronounced something like Camus. At first, I had no idea what this was trying to say. So I looked it up, and it turns out it's like the French author, Albert Camus. Not too hard, but what stumped me a little bit is that some people have told me this name could also be translated as Camille. Camille can be written like this, and Camus, at least in this game, is like this. So they're really close. Debatably then, you could probably argue it either way. For this video, I'm just gonna go with Camus because it seems closer. Anyway, unlike Leon, Luna isn't just a symbol around here, and she actually can take care of herself. So she decides to just go and help out the village on her own. She runs into us on the way out and almost recognizes Leon, but he acts a little too shy, which makes Luna think it couldn't possibly be the Mask of Death. Ouch. The move now is to follow behind her and make sure nothing bad happens. It's gonna be a long journey too, so pack some snacks for the ride. Heading south, you'll go through a desert area with a cave in the middle of it. Look, don't even bother with this yet, okay? Just stay away. It's another super high level zone, and you're just not ready yet. I'm sure after hearing the townspeople talk about it, you want to try your luck, but no, it's like a beginner's trap. You just want to keep going until you reach this path leading up to Mount Epson. There's an unconscious guy lying at the entrance, meaning again, the Piper's been through here. Dude's been leaving a trail of bodies across the entire world, and it feels like nobody really gives a shit. To be fair though, I guess he doesn't leave too many witnesses either. This mountain's actually a big stage, or at least it feels that way with the incessant random encounters. You have to make your way up a couple floors, cross over a bridge at the top of the mountain, and then climb all the way back down on the other side. When you're up on this bridge, Mystra makes another appearance, and now introduces herself as the Queen of Demonic Beasts. She reads Leon's mind and immediately knows his entire backstory, even down to his childhood, claiming he was abandoned by his parents and rescued from monsters by Ein as a child. Leon seems a bit upset by her saying that, and she apologizes before granting him the ability to fuse demons with Gaia power. So now, whenever you want, Leon here can cook up stronger allies for you. This is obviously really important, and kinda makes up for how lackluster he is in combat. With that, Mr. promptly changes the subject, and tells us she now realizes she was born to form the perfect world. But she doesn't know what such a world would actually look like, and disappears again. Well, it seems like traveling around sure boosted her power, but you know how it goes in Megami Tensei when people start talking about making new worlds. We'll have to stay cautious. So get ready for this shit. After that scene wrapped up, I tried out fusion just for fun. And my very first demon was a mutation. No joke. If you're unfamiliar, in some Megami Tensei games, fusions can go wrong and give you a new demon that you didn't plan for. It's usually pretty rare, and it must be in this game too because it never happened again. I couldn't believe it. The demon I got was Zubaje, a pigman from the story Journey to the West. And if you think I'm gonna get rid of someone like this, you just don't know me. Nah, we're keeping John Pork for the rest of the game. Welcome home, buddy. Once the mountains are behind you, head east and you'll find Stegma Village. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is a strange place. The problem here is that a family of monsters moved into a tower to the north, and for whatever reason, the mayor decided, you know what, we gotta sacrifice some people to take care of this. But the monsters haven't even attacked yet. He's just killing off his own citizens because he thinks he needs to, and mostly everyone seems oddly complacent with it. There's even this lady outside of the hospital who wants to die from the plague to get closer to God. Then up here, there's a soldier who talks about how the laws down here are so loose, you can get away with anything, before remarking that it goes against his conscience sometimes. Like, what are you even talking about, man? The whole place just feels eerily off. Let's just take care of the tower so we can leave. For this stage, it's another one where you just gotta keep going up. Except instead of 2 or 3 floors, it's more like 9. Even though each one's tiny, by the time you reach the top, it still feels like 300 years have passed. At the end of the line, we find the family of monsters standing over Luna. Leon boldly announces his presence, maybe to try and impress her, but the monsters don't even know who he is and just attack us instead. Nice. So now we gotta go up against Freddy Fazbear and the animatronics. This is Gemma, Geru, and Gero, the mother, father, and son respectively. And it's gonna be a good old-fashioned 3v3 because I didn't fuse anything else after creating the perfect pig life form. This fight can be challenging, but if you knock him down in the right order, it's not so bad. Your first priority has got to be the little guy because he can hit your team with the confusion status effect. After that, you should take out the mother because she can poison you, and then finally the big man in the middle. And, you know, it actually just hit me that we're basically reenacting what happened to our own family earlier in the game. I mean, our people didn't try to eat anybody, as far as I know, but it's still kind of morbid at first. Thankfully, after the fight's over, they don't actually die. They just stop fighting and go on to explain that they don't want to hurt anybody at all. They just needed somewhere to live. The family doesn't want much to do with humans, and they'd actually prefer it if the mayor stopped sending suicidal volunteers all the way up here. See, it's like I was saying, you gotta feel it out first before you start sacrificing people. Ultimately, the monster family is spared, and Luna's safe, although she does give us the "I totally could have handled it by myself" speech. Her behavior heavily resembles the way our party member Alice acted in the first Shinyaku game. Interestingly enough though, her design resembles Lizelle. And now that I mention it, Leon kinda acts like Lizelle did, mostly quiet and reserved. I'm a real sucker for the recurring stuff like that, I think it's pretty neat. After a bit of lighthearted fan-service-y banter between Luna and Leon regarding the length of her skirt again, everyone gets officially introduced, and Luna gets clued into our mission. She doesn't seem too sure we can do it initially, but eventually offers for us to come back to HQ and talk things out. Sounds like a plan. Now, unless you want to walk all the way back, which would suck gigantic ass, you should have unlocked a spell by now that lets you teleport to old towns, so I'd just go with that. When we get there, Luna stops us in the hallway before we can reach the Archbishop and her brother, and joins us on the spot, now prepared to take on the Mad King. She explains that her title as the Gospel Child was given to her after the loss of her parents, and as a symbol of hope, she aspires to bring them back somehow by doing good in the world. Lately, the Holy Army's let a lot of things slide, and Luna's determined to actually do something and make change in the world instead of just sitting around here. The reason we had to come all the way back to find that out is because Luna wanted to accept one more mission that nobody else is taking care of. To investigate a magical mountain far to the south. Apparently her brother was crushed to see her put herself in more danger, but hey, she's the Gospel Child, right? So it'll probably be fine. Presumably everyone expects her to come back after this mission and stay, but it's not looking like that's gonna happen. Works for me. Magic Mountain it is then. Speaking of magic, Luna's another spellcaster, mostly focused on healing. She also has the instant death light spell Hama on, and down the line she gets a special move called Rapid Dance that hits something like 5 or 6 times in a row. With those healing abilities, Luna instantly becomes a staple party member. The mountain we're looking for now is pretty far to the south of Stegma Village. Then you gotta go west and then north again past Din Castle Town. We're told to prioritize the mountain, so I did and completely skipped the town at first. But when you actually get there, a soldier blocks the way and says that we should leave if we don't want to die. I mean, alright, geez, man. So we're going to the castle town after all. Now listen, if you thought Stegma was a bit off, this place is on a whole nother level. The whole town is devoid of activity, except for a few guards and some guy lying on the ground who says he can't be seen by God in his condition. When you walk by a house in the corner, someone recognizes Luna from inside and whispers for us to come in. There's a woman here named Cheche and a man named Toguchi. Toguchi tells us everyone in town works day and night until they're completely broken, while those rich old fucks up in the castle live in complete luxury. The citizens are truly convinced that if they die from the plague, they'll be honored by God, and Toguchi's tired of hearing the same old lies. His entire family died from the disease, and he doesn't feel very honored about it. Now get ready for what comes next. Toguchi thinks the best way to get more answers on the plague is to infiltrate the castle and kidnap the minister. The party tries to distance themselves from him after this, but when he realizes we're trying to get to Magic Mountain, he claims he can put in a good word for the soldiers to let us through, which is an offer we just can't pass up. Classic shit. And just like that, it's time for a Last Bible stealth mission. You see something new every day. To sneak inside the castle, you can't just go in through the front door. You gotta wrap around to the back and then touch this one space of trees down here, which leads to a hidden entrance. I wouldn't call this hidden path a fully fledged dungeon, but it does have some encounters, and a bit of treasure. Once you're in the castle proper, from here you gotta go room to room until you find the minister. There are guards stationed all around the place, and if you go directly into their line of sight, they'll toss you out. It's not super difficult to avoid detection because the guards don't actually move, but I guess if you rush through it could happen. Several rooms are stacked with money and free stuff, so be sure not to miss anything. When you find the minister's room, you have to talk to him from behind or you will get kicked out immediately. So walk up, tap his shoulder, and Luna tells him that if he moves even a little bit, we'll kill him. It's almost like she's done this before, and that came out a little too smoothly. The party blindfolds him after that and takes him back to Taguchi's, and then the interrogation starts. It's revealed here that the Holy King's medicine is produced at a massive cost, and the elites are simply unwilling to make enough for the entire world, because it would be too expensive. Instead, they spread this narrative that dying from the plague is somehow noble, something that even the minister doesn't believe is true. He tries to say it's to maintain the world's mental health, but he quickly crumbles and admits that nobody in the ruling class cares about what happens to the common man. The way they distribute the medicine and the whole narrative around it is just one big method of population control. Once he's done talking, Luna either kills him or knocks him out, and the team dumps his body behind the castle. Now that's some hardcore shit. I don't really know what Taguchi's gonna do with this knowledge, but I hope he's happy with it. If anything, I feel like it gives us incentive to take out the Holy King in addition to the Mad King. It's true that the medicine works and does help people, but someone else needs to be in charge of distribution for sure. The whole party is shocked at the state of affairs, and honestly, if what the minister said is even half true, it sounds like the whole government's due for the reset button. Well, with our end of the deal complete, it's finally time to tackle Magic Mountain. As we arrive, Luna explains that there are evil spirits rumored to be lurking here, which really scares Leon, who doesn't want to be involved at all. This stage is very similar to Mount Epson, except there's no bridge section, so it's a bit shorter. Part of the way up, you'll have to fight a gargoyle who sits there absorbing Gaia that flows throughout the place. Just like the Phoenix in the water situation, fighting a gargoyle on a mountain is another recurring Last Bible thing. With Luna's help, it should be a piece of cake, but keep in mind the boss can hit pretty hard, because the game knows you can easily heal now. Paralysis is also a threat, and if all of your human party members get paralyzed at once, it's an instant game over, so watch out. Not too far after this, Mystra drops in for another visit, saying she was drawn to the Gaia here. Luna demands to know on what grounds Mystra calls herself a queen, but she just kinda ignores it and tells Luna her memories have been altered. It sounds like Luna has the wrong idea about what exactly happened to her parents, but Mystra won't go any further on the topic and abruptly disappears to the top of the mountain. Follow her up there, and it's that purple orb from the start of the game, surrounded by piles of bones. The orb radiates powerful energy, but before we can do anything with it, an old Last Bible classic character shows up. It's Mephisto, one of the 3 demonic archdukes. Throughout the series, we've killed this guy approximately 6,000 times, but he always comes back to life. And this is a prequel, right? So he's still young and healthy. Mephisto gets straight down to business and basically pounces immediately, only briefly mocking Luna before he does so. Also, just like the first Shinyaku game, he shouts out, "It's dinner time" again, which I think is pretty silly. So are you getting tired of battles that are mandatory losses yet? Well, here's another one. We're just not on this guy's level, plain and simple. It's a total beatdown and there's nothing you can do about it. We end up being saved at the last possible second once again by Ein, who delivers another dramatic "I'm gonna kick your ass" speech, and lands a solid blow against Mephisto, who retreats after saying that despair is just around the corner. I guess he's kinda right, they did announce that Danganronpa 2 remake recently. I'm sorry, seriously. Anyway, it's not clear exactly what he means, but it turns out Ein was on a mission to monitor this place too, and it was total luck that he happened to show up when he did. I think this makes like the 3rd time that he's revived us after being totally wiped out. It's starting to be a little bit embarrassing. Ein tells us he's tried to destroy this orb in the past, but nothing could crack it. But then Rin arrives, who says it's likely to be some type of egg. Before they leave, Ein pokes fun at Leon for making friends with Luna, who should be his worst enemy. And now, we're about wrapped up with everything on this continent. To advance the story, we need to go back to the Holy King's HQ to report on what happened and get access to the next warp shrine. But if you're in for some optional content, there is one more thing worth looking at. Far to the northwest is yet another mountain called Mount Caspar. In just about every Last Bible game, there's a mechanic where you can collect bones and magnetite throughout the story, and eventually have those transformed into a powerful demon. Mount Caspar is your spot for that in this one. The materials aren't too hard to track down, they're usually just mixed in with the standard shit you'll find walking around. Magnetite can even be just a drop from random encounters, so when you find some, Be sure to hold on to it if you're interested. For some reason, you can also do a rematch against Ares here. He was reborn after dying in the mines, but this time he's absolutely nasty and has like 10,000 HP. For context, that demon family all put together had like 1,400. Back at HQ, we give Camus the update on everything that happened. He doesn't handle it very professionally though and starts screaming in panic because Luna could have gotten hurt. He's a little, over-attached, you could say? No wonder she wanted to get out of here. Camus decides to relay all this to the Archbishop and tries his best to get Luna to stay, but it doesn't work. And so, now we're on our way to the Half-Moon continent. It shouldn't surprise you to learn that the Piper just passed through this warp shrine too and stabbed another guy. You gotta wonder what's going on with that. Like, why is he always just ahead of us? It's not like we're really following a linear path, and I don't see why he would be traveling the world too. Just hide out in the woods or something, right? If you feel like we're never gonna catch him, I don't blame you. But fortunately, we're right about to have our first chance at turning the tables. The Half-Moon continent is incredibly small and features just a few points of interest. It's blanketed in snow to the south, but as you travel north, it gives way to the usual green fields, and you'll come up on Half-Moon Village. It's a beautiful place built over top of a body of water, and it seems very lavish and wealthy. But just like Din Castle Town, it's oddly silent, and the party gets a bad feeling. Even the shops won't let us inside, and from behind their locked doors, the owners shout out for us to get lost and leave the kids alone. Hey now, look, I'm just trying to buy some weapons. After getting the mayor to talk, it turns out the whole town is the Piper's hunting ground. He's abducted several children recently, and everyone's completely given up on going outside. This is our big break. The mayor knows where the Piper's lair is, just a little further north in a place called Poppenberg Cave. Nobody even needs to ask us for help on this one. We got personal stake in it. Let's go kick his ass. There's a decent amount of ground to cover in the killer's den. You might notice a slight bump in difficulty after arriving on this continent, so if you're getting pushed around, I'd camp out by the healing spring and grind out a few levels. In the furthest depths of the cave, there's this room with a hallway that leads straight into a wall. But we've seen this trick before, so go ahead and knock it over. As you creep inside, Lana's song rings out in the distance. Then, in the heart of his lair, you find the man himself, who eats another kid right in front of us. And look at all these bones! It makes all of his other crimes so far look like a total joke. There are over 24 piles of human remains in here. When the Piper turns around, we charge straight at him, and round 2 begins. You should have the extremely powerful Gaia Break skill by now, so if your MP is full, I'd open up with that to knock off a big portion of his health bar right off the bat. This dude can dish out serious damage with his magic, but at this point, we're strong enough to withstand it and keep fighting. Spam Luna's group healing spell and just keep swinging as hard as possible. Eventually the Piper starts to charge up a spell that probably will kill you if your health isn't full, but it takes a few turns, and you can see it coming. Don't mess around with this, just defend if you're not sure what's gonna happen. When the Piper finally goes down, what do you think happens? He just knocks you out anyway. It's not fair, dude, they can't keep doing that. We had him totally cornered. He somehow manages to squeeze out one last song on that damn flute, and that casts the spell that does us in for good. This time, it's not Ein that saves us, it's Camus, who is not stronger than we are, by the way, but just so happened to barge in because he's like obsessed with Luna. The Piper's too weak at this point to keep up the fight and decides to book it, but we get healed up and everyone chases after him. So you rush through this newly discovered passage, and of course, he got away and wiped out the Holy King backup squad. Now there's something about this that doesn't add up, I swear. You're telling me the army knew the Piper camped out here, and they knew we were coming over here, and they didn't send like an entire damn platoon to help us? Why not station guys all around the continent so there's no possible way he can leave without being seen? I mean, in no world should he have been able to escape that cave, especially because he was almost dead. Damn. Okay, well, it feels like a total loss, but we actually did make the area a lot safer. The Piper's gone for now, and back in town, allegedly they now have Holy King soldiers on protection duty. Our next destination is no less than the Cain continent, naturally home of Mad King Cain. With absolutely zero basis, Camus believes the Piper fled there, and sure enough, as you pass through the underground tunnel to the northwest leading over there, there's another dying soldier, this one from the Mad King's army. Hot on the trail again, I guess. The Cain continent's another massive one, fitting for the guy who used to rule over everything. Maybe he's compensating for something. Your first stop here is Nikita Village, off to the east through the hills and forests. Leon has a bizarre reaction to arriving here, like he wants to say something about it but just can't. Luna tells him to stay focused, and he kinda just drops it after that. The whole talk of the town here is a local couple who were driven out because they created so many problems on a near daily basis. Vandalism, violence, and all kinds of stuff nobody wanted to deal with. It was such a big and notorious thing that even Dr. Marlowe, whose assistant we helped earlier, stopped by to investigate them. You can find their old house in this far-off corner, and it's completely ripped apart. The mayor explains it's been a whole ass decade since they left, but everyone still has beef with them. Nowadays, they're rumored to be in cahoots with a monster in some dungeon in the barren hills to the northwest. What do you think? Round 3 with the Piper, or something else? This stage is called the Crowfield Couples Cave. It's what I like to call a shitty stair stage. Now I have a patent on that phrase, so don't steal it. Essentially, what you're doing is going up and down different staircases, trying to find the right one. It's kind of like a teleporter maze, and you'll have to do some trial and error. The encounters are really going to piss you off while you're trying to figure that out, but by this point, you may have a demon with a spell that can reduce the rate temporarily. At the very end, we find the remains of the titular Crowfield couple, with a monster standing over them. But it's not the Piper. It's this douchebag. The fucking Minotaur. How are you gonna keep doing it? It's all because I mentioned it earlier, right? I jinxed it. The Minotaur is like the Piper for me, but in real life. And you know what? No, not this time. Seriously, I'm done. I'm breaking the cycle. We're turning this shit off. No more Minotaurs. JRPGs are overrated anyway. Let's play a shooter or something. You like Crysis 2? Oh wait, I don't care. Alright, so after you wipe out all those guys in the hallway, these big double doors open, and you're confronted by Hargreave, who says,
"Crack the labyrinth and you would at least expect to see the Minotaur before it kills you."
Minotaur? I'm gonna throw up.
Come then. Masks off.
Okay, fine. There's no way out. I'll just have to accept it. So, the Minotaur. This time he uses fire spells that do a lot of damage. If any of your allies have an ice spell, it'll hit them extra hard, but besides that, you should be able to keep up if you're healing every turn. The Crowfields really were rolling with this guy for a while, but it's kinda like keeping a pet chimpanzee. Eventually it's just gonna rip your face off. When the Minotaur goes down, he starts to say something about Leon, but kicks the bucket before it can really come out. This will eventually be explained, but for now you just have to go with it. Back at Nikita Village, a detachment squad from the Mad King's army shows up to do exactly what we just did. Sorry guys. Everyone's relieved that the Crowfields won't be doing any more damage, but there's no time to rest, because the soldiers tell us afterwards that suspicious movement has been reported in a mountain temple to the east. It's the Golden Orb. You have a long walk to get there too. You go so far south you start seeing snow again, and then it's far back up to the northeast. The whole orb situation seems a lot more organized here than it was in the Holy King's territory. There are Mad King soldiers guarding it, who almost get really mad at us, but thankfully Ain, Rin, and Sato are there to invite us in as VIPs. It's now been discovered that a human form can vaguely be seen inside these orbs, and it's rumored that these will be the true gospel children. As the party internally discusses this possibility, all of a sudden, Mystra makes another appearance, and things get tense. Ain wants her away from the orb, and she's not quite the same anymore. Having traveled the world and witnessed vast suffering, Mystra now believes that optimism and purpose are just big illusions created by humans to justify living. Before disappearing again, she asks if we think humans should live at all, and then the room falls totally silent. It seems like this planet gave Mystra the impression that a perfect world might be one where bad things don't have a chance of happening at all. And the only way that's possible is if nobody was around to begin with. Now, can she really pull that off? No idea. After seeing Mystra pay special attention to us, Ain's convinced that we actually can kill the Mad King, and tells us to meet him at the army's headquarters further northwest. There's only one more stop before you get there, the Mad King's town. Ironically, despite the dude's hateful reputation, this is one of the most secure locations in the entire game. People are generally happy here, and although it's heavily militarized, I guess you're not going to be in any danger. There's not a whole lot to do here, just rest and resupply. And fortunately, it's just below the army's HQ if you need to double back for a break. Now, if you think Ain's invitation sounds like a trap, you're kind of right. It's more like a test, though. He wants to be absolutely, 100%, without a doubt, positively sure that we're gonna win against the king. So you gotta fight your way through the entire base first. I alluded earlier to those massive Grand Cross dungeons in Shinyaku 1. Well, here you go, it's back, and this time they colored it red. In these Shinyaku games, it's like anytime there's a military-based dungeon, it's sort of like its own pocket dimension that's the size of the entire observable universe on the inside. You have to navigate a series of gigantic rooms in here, all the while being jumped by knights, martial artists, and wizards. Waiting for you at the end is a fight against Ain himself, along with Rin and Sado. You ready to do this? What just happened? Yeah, they're pretty tough, and for once, you're actually not expected to lose here. So here's the strat, okay? Because this one's real business. Rin's on the left, and she can heal. Ain's in the middle, and he can erase you. And Sado's on the right, and she can cut your fucking head off, which kills you instantly. Your first instinct might be to wipe out the healer, but no. You gotta take down Sado, because that instant kill move is busted. But how do you survive long enough to pull that off? There's one loophole I could find. You gotta put Ain and Rin to sleep, and then just leave them alone, because if you smack them after that, they wake back up. Once they're out of commission for a few turns, just focus fire Sado, and then do the same with Rin, and you should be able to take on Ain by himself. At face value, without a sleep spell, it's without a doubt the hardest fight so far, by a wide margin. But as long as you have that, you'll be okay. When Ain lies defeated, he finally explains why he really wanted to do all this to begin with. Back in the day, when Cain was still a normal guy, he spoke of a man who would appear with a summoning device just like ours. While the Mad King's army is still loyal to his old self, they don't really want the monsters to be around, and honestly at this point, Cain's mind is likely deteriorated into nothing. Ain thinks if we kill him, all of the monsters will vanish. And we have no loyalty to the guy, so we're not going to break any sworn oaths or anything like that. For years the castle's been locked off, but we're given access, and told to finish this once and for all. The castle's just up ahead, and in the entry hallway there's a portal that leads deep into space onto some kind of magical platform. We pass by a shining star that contains a memory of a young child waking up to his father. And then there's another portal that leads into a teleporter maze, located God knows where. Things are getting a little abstract here. Did they lock the king away in some dimensional maze or what? After some trial and error with these damn warps, you'll eventually arrive in a massive throne room suspended over a lake, or maybe the ocean. At long last, it's the Mad King. He doesn't speak at all, he just groans a bit, sort of like the Piper, and then attacks. The dude is a complete shell of his former self. He looks almost bestial, with glazed over eyes and a huge ass beard. This is one of the biggest things we've been working towards, but it's hard to feel any sort of way about it. Cain has no self-awareness. It doesn't feel like an epic battle against the world's chief villain at all, it's just a mercy killing, really. We did promise our dad we'd avenge the family by doing this, but if anything, all this fight does is highlight that the Mad King really has no power at all anymore. He might as well be dead already, it's just a broken man locked in a room alone. Obviously, Cain failed to contain the plague and introduced monsters into the world. But that was 10 years ago, and when you look around at the villages and stuff, it's not usually him or his army causing problems. Many times, it's the local governments. We've seen supposedly good people hoarding medicine for the rich, sacrificing citizens on a whim, or just doing nothing. Now, they don't have to act like that, but they do, and they still try to blame it on Cain. I mean, you're telling me after a decade, this broken, rotting corpse who can't even talk is still the problem? He doesn't even know what's going on right now. It's like the story is trying to say that humanity having this big scapegoat for all their problems doesn't do much good at all. The damage Cain initially caused is unforgivable, but the people who are left need to be better than he was, instead of using the narrative behind him to become complacent or equally shitty. Anyway, this isn't a hard fight whatsoever. In fact, you could easily beat it without being hit a single time. Sleep magic again works wonders here, and Cain has no backup, which turns the battle into a total joke. When it's all over, Ain, Rin, and Sato run in, saying that the seal around the castle has been permanently broken. Ain stabs the king one final time, which finishes him off for good, and what follows is a cutscene so long, the game asks if you want to stop playing and save before it gets started. It's like they were trying to be courteous to whoever was playing this on the train before work in Japan. Imagine being late for a meeting because you can't save in Shinyaku Last Bible II. So strap in, here we go. It's time to learn the Mad King's backstory. This ends up kind of validating my interpretation of his role in the story, but it also introduces more questions to figure out. A decade back, King Cain and his wife Queen Mel find themselves extremely frustrated because they can't stop the unending tides of the plague. The people are going on crazy witch hunts trying to find the source, but nothing's working out, and the situation's erupting into chaos. The queen tries to comfort Cain, saying that eventually things will mellow out, and everyone will realize, you know what, okay, he tried his best. But later that day, while she's on a walk outside, an assassin makes his move, and she's sadly killed. Cain spends the following days wallowing in depression, and realizes there's no reason the plague is happening. It just is, you know, because of nature, right? And that's why the people are so upset. They have nobody to truly blame their frustrations on. So he comes up with the idea to be that target himself, giving the people one guy to hate on, instead of lashing out against others like his wife. The moment he resolved to be the villain the world needed, however, a powerful presence, which Cain referred to as God, appeared in the throne room, and from then on, he was no longer the same person. After that, he invented the Holy King able to oppose him, which is why nobody's really seen him, because he doesn't actually exist, it's just fiction. Cain stayed locked away after this and spent all day speaking with voices from the heavens. Eventually, he started repeating two things over and over. One was that somebody who could communicate with monsters would eventually kill him, and the other was that gospel children would bring their light and change the world. Ain then reveals that he was the one responsible for the heavy taxation across the world, because it was the only way to get the medicine produced for at least some of the population. Of course, this hasn't stopped the other countries from misusing it and hoarding it for society's elites, which goes along with what I was saying. The people are creating a problem and blaming it on the popular scapegoat. Ain goes on to explain that nobody knows who or what this presence was that changed Cain forever, but that same being is responsible for the monsters appearing, not him. Something out there was observing this crumbling world, saw its ruler snap a little bit, and swooped in to make the situation worse for some unknown reason. So there you have it. Cain meant well. He didn't even make the monsters, but he was misguided, and the false narrative only gave society an excuse to stagnate. The problem from the beginning was the general public being unable to cope with pointless suffering, and he didn't fix that, he just shifted focus to himself for a while. Now the question is, who's the one that took advantage of all this? Was it Mystra? Queen of the Demons, right? It sure sounds like it. But Cain called that voice God, implying it may have been male, so we can't say for sure just yet. Unfortunately, none of the monsters disappear after this is all over. Cain didn't make them, so killing him didn't get rid of them. It seems like even Ain was mistaken about that idea. Just when it seems like things are finally about to relax for a second, speak of the devil, Mystra pops back up again, saying that she'll be waiting on Magic Mountain. Doesn't exactly sound like we're gonna enjoy what we find there, but we can't ignore it either. Warp over to the Din continent, head up the mountain, and Mystra then explains that from the orbs, candidates who are qualified to lead her perfect world will be born. Then she disappears, the egg cracks open, and who is it? Well, it's Satan, the Demon King. And he's not a nice guy. In fact, he's a huge asshole, and immediately says he's here to slaughter human beings as if they were pathetic toys. Then he just flies off. Okay. But wait. Isn't Satan usually aligned with God and the angels in the Megami Tensei games? Like in Shin Megami Tensei 2 or Digital Devil Story 2? He's not called the Demon King there because that's Lucifer. Well, not in Shinyaku 2. They play him as a straight up fiend who seems to be acting on his own. This is far worse than anything the Mad King could have done. Everyone's lives are now in immediate danger. The party rushes back to HQ, and Ein decides to combine the Holy King's army with the Mad King's army, mobilizing the entire world's forces to kill all monsters. The newly unified army is determined to complete this mission, and then Ein joins our party to travel to the continent Sir-Omega to hunt down Satan himself. It's all really heating up now. Alright, well, you should know the drill. Head through another warp shrine, walk by another guy the Piper sucker punched, and it's time to get cracking. Sir-Omega is the final major continent, and that means the demons here are taking steroids and I am fucked up pre-workout powder. They're much stronger than before, especially at the eastern end. Thankfully, Ein's a bit of a monster himself. He hits really hard, has a lot of health, and has access to a variety of special combat techniques that can crank out insane numbers if you have buff spells. He also has a super busted ability that I mentioned when we were talking about mechanics earlier. A manly stance that lets him absorb all damage coming towards the party for a single turn. If you strategize around keeping him alive, this will absolutely give you a leg up on even the most difficult bosses. And honestly, I'm not going to call it mandatory to use it, but it sure feels like it sometimes, because soon enough, we'll be going up against bosses that do devastating group targeting spells almost every turn. Our first stop on Sir-Omega is Koyota Village to the south. This is a settlement that was recently nuked off the map by Mephisto. Nearly all these cabins are destroyed, and only a couple people are left standing around in the wreckage. They tell us we're welcome to take all the remaining supplies for our journey, so go door to door and loot every single building you can get into. To the west, you've also got Mount Partir, another heretics gathering where you can turn bones into demons if you've been collecting them. One of the guys here also talks about fusing the demons Cerberus and Orthrus together. If you get both and a few pieces of magnetite, you can make the demon Solion, who played a big role in the original Last Bible II. The place you're really looking for, though, to keep the ball rolling is Ramza Town, which is just a bit southeast of Koyota. They got two big issues here. First of all, it's another hunting ground for the Piper. And on top of that, remember the demon family? Well, they wanted to settle down here, but with Satan's arrival and the Piper picking people off, nobody's really into that idea. We know these demons are cool and won't attack anyone, but everyone's just too nervous. So we end up cutting the mayor here a deal. We'll join forces with the family and kill the Piper, for real this time, and in return, he'll let them stay in town. Obviously, we want to kill the guy anyway, but we gotta look out for our buddies too. This time our arch nemesis is hiding out in Mew Cave to the east. The demons beat us there, and Leon kinda jokes that we should just leave because they probably already killed the Piper. Now look, I don't blame him for being nervous at this point, because as we've seen, he can get away with anything if the plot demands it. And I'd love to tell you it's going to be different this time too. But sadly, it's another crushing defeat. I'm not even going to try and yank you around and get your hopes up. You pass through more tunnels, you see him eat another kid, you find another room full of bones, you kill him, and then, like clockwork, he gets back up, runs away, and this time on the way out, obliterates the demon dad. I swear, like, come on, dude. Surely when we find him again later, it's not gonna happen for a third time, right? That plot armor's gotta get rusty soon, and I'm gonna be there when it does. This scene's obviously sad, but I think the effects diminished a bit because of how similar it is to last time. So the mother and child demon end up being permitted to stay in Ramza even though the Piper survived. Ein doesn't take the loss so well though, and smashes his head off the concrete in front of him, which leaves a crack in the pavement. I understand being ashamed, but geez, you're gonna give yourself a concussion. As we debrief with the family in their new home, all of a sudden, Ein's pocket starts buzzing, and I shit you not, he pulls out a cell phone. Yeah, pretty much. He calls it a communications device. Rin somehow made this, and only 2 exist. The Holy King's Archbishop has one, and Ein has the other. I'm surprised he can even handle a phone call at the moment after bashing his fucking skull off the floor. Jokes aside, that must be how he always has so much information. He doesn't have to travel anywhere to get it. How convenient. So Maxwell gives him a call and says the golden orb's about to crack open and we better get back there right now. Once everyone assembles, another terrible candidate for Mystra's perfect world is born. Lucifer! But it's not the guy from Shinyaku 1, it's like a different version in this game, before he fell from heaven. So he's Archangel Lucifer. It's a total reversal of how these games normally go. So are we supposed to believe that each planet has its own slightly different copy of these guys? I'm gonna go insane. Anyway, everyone's in awe of Lucifer's majesty, and I guess at first they think because he's an archangel, he's a good guy, but clearly they don't know what series they're in, because as soon as one of the soldiers reaches out to touch him, Lucifer strikes him dead, and promises to enforce total control over the human race, which he sees as nothing more than livestock. Then he leaves to go prepare to face off against Satan. We're now in the middle of a cosmic war where both sides suck. It just gets worse by the second, and it seems like at this point we might be truly screwed. But once we're back outside, Ein gets another phone call. Now remember, only 2 phones exist. For a second, it's kinda tense because we just saw Maxwell, and it's not him. Fortunately, it turns out to be Rin, who just finished the world's 3rd phone. And she's got some updates. First, an entire new island with a mysterious portal rose out of the ocean near Seromega, and it's being guarded by an immense demon called Leviathan. Second, and more pressingly, they have Mystra in jail back at HQ. Now, if you're wondering how do you arrest someone who can't go 5 minutes without teleporting across the entire world, I thought the same thing. It boggles the mind. It turns out though that Mystra's done wandering around, and now has nothing else to do except wait to see who's gonna win the huge war that she's started. We're allowed to talk with her in her cell, and she confirms that Lucifer and Satan are the only 2 candidates who are going to appear. Mystra doesn't even necessarily like them, it's more like they're just the only ones who have the power to make her world happen. She wants that world badly, but says if we manage to kill them, it's totally fair because a truly qualified candidate wouldn't die like that. So she's willing to let us interfere on the basis that if we pull it off, it's simply not time for her world yet. Look, I respect it. She knows the rules of the game, and she's ready to play it, so okay, let's do it. With that, our new goal is to strike at Satan and Lucifer in their respective home bases. But before we can do that, guess what? One more problem appears, and it doesn't reflect too well on humanity's organized efforts. Archbishop Maxwell calls Ein again, but it's total chaos in the background. The Holy King's side of the army is currently undergoing a coup, and it's being led by Camus. Yeah, Luna's brother apparently doesn't buy the whole story with the Mad King, and he's decided to just take over that wing of the military for himself. You couldn't have picked a worse time, like at least wait until the god-level threats attacking the planet are out of the way? You can't really deny that. So now we gotta rush over there and put a stop to it. And you know what that means. Oh, you know. It's another ballbuster military-based grindhouse. God help us all. I really thought we were gonna be spared having to do 2 of them. At the very least, this one goes a lot more smoothly because we're pretty strong by now. So cut your way through, and at the end is the man of the hour, who just murdered the Archbishop. Luna can't believe what she's seeing, as Camus turns around and starts going off about how she should only have eyes for him. It's a really creepy rant. He even comments on her outfit and says she should dress more modestly so that other men can't see any skin. Like you're talking to your sister, man, you've lost the plot. All of this is to express the main point, that Camus misses the days when they were younger and got along better. Yeah, well, when you act like this, you're really ruining those memories, aren't you? Unwilling to let Luna go again, Camus attacks the party, and he's pretty tough. I lost here a couple times, actually. One of Camus' most powerful moves is called Stardust. It's a heavy-hitting group targeting attack. Just like Luna, he also has instant death abilities. Ein's damage absorption can get you through most of it, but you'll have to be reviving him practically every turn. Poison and Confusion are also effective options to gain the advantage. Once you pull through, Camus lies sprawled out on the floor dying, and coughs up one last message that completely shocks Luna before killing himself. Their parents are alive, and Luna's memories of them were erased at her own request. There's some reason that she wanted to forget them, and we're told we can find that out in Arcadia. Ein explains to the party that Arcadia is like a medical research center, and typically people who are nearing death go there to live out their final days. The place is still blocked off, but he knows a secret entrance in another conspicuously blank space in the trees. You just have a simple series of underground corridors to pass through, but the gimmick, if you will, is that there's also a gigantic horde of monsters at the end getting ready to storm the city, and you have to kill every single one of them all in a row. Now, the trick here is to use Louis' Gaia Break skill. I kind of forgot to mention this, but this ability actually hits every monster in a stack. So if it's one or more of the same dude, Gaia Break will wipe them all out. Failing that, it's still not too crazy to get through, it'll just take you a bit longer. As we enter the city, we get a cutscene with no context taking place on that space platform that preceded the fight with Cain. Another star appears next to the original one, and that's it. Weird. Well, Arcadia is an impressive and fortress-like location, largely quiet except for some doctors and a few soldiers scattered around. There's only a couple things really worth looking at here. First up, you can reunite with Dr. Marlowe's assistant, who offers to let us look at the research he's collected. I think it's funny they still never gave this guy a name. He's always just gonna be the assistant. Marlowe himself is in a room behind him and seems to have gone completely senile, with his notes scattered all over the place. The assistant claims that Marlowe's current project heavily pertains to Leon's past, and sure enough, on one of the shelves is a whole notebook with different observations about him. It essentially says that Leon is under immense mental pressure due to various life events, and Ein is basically the only person who have ever gotten through to him because he raised him throughout childhood. Even Ein doesn't understand what this pressure stems from, but it's something to keep in mind. Without spoiling too much, you can actually already start to piece some of it together. There are several more reveals that need to happen before we get the full picture, but some of the facts are already out there. I'll just save the full breakdown for the end of the game. From here on, every once in a while these notes will get updated, so if you want to come back here you can pick up more theories and shit, or you can just wait until the end of the game when the plot explains it. The other major thing to do here, of course, is find Luna's parents. They're staying in the terminal patients ward, which on the inside is shown to have tons and tons of people in it, across 2 floors, all being kept under permanent sedation. As we search for them amongst the sea of patients, Ein asks if we think living like this is true happiness. No pain, no suffering, just existence. I thought this was a heavy moment. It's definitely partially a retread of the Arcadia plot point from Shin Megami Tensei II, but in that game it was like VR heaven. Here, it's more like a debate of whether or not it's worth it to keep a loved one alive if they have no hope of getting better. It feels a bit more raw because this sadly happens in real life all the time. I've known people who've had to make that decision, and until you're in it, I think it's kinda hard to know what you'd really say. Luna eventually identifies her parents, and all of her memories come rushing back immediately. When she and Camus were young, they had to sit by and watch their parents live like this, wondering if it was truly the right thing for them to do. It really bothered both of them, and her brother decided to take it upon himself to forcefully remove Luna's memories so she wouldn't have to suffer with them. Luna explains that she didn't stop him, she just let him do what he wanted, and then she was raised as the gospel child, which is pretty crazy because that's not how he explained it. The impression he gives the party is that Luna decided to do it, and I guess it's true, right, but she was coerced into it. I guess the guy was a total control freak weirdo from the very beginning. This all hits Luna so hard that she breaks down and leaves the party. And again, the timing couldn't be worse, because Rin calls and says that Satan's forces are making a move on Din Castle. They've sent Mephisto over there to wipe the place out, and we're gonna have to stop him without Luna's help. This is where the game really gets interesting combat-wise. We've lost our dedicated healer, and some of the most powerful enemies are right at our doorstep. You gotta get creative to get through this. You're gonna have to recruit some demons with healing abilities and status infliction moves to make up for the loss, and Ain's damage absorption becomes even more important. Now don't worry, for all you Luna fans out there, she does come back. It just won't be for a while. Like a surprisingly long time, so you really do have to readjust your old habits. When the rest of the party arrives at Din Castle Town, we find that they've sealed up the gates. This time, even that back path through the forest isn't good enough to get in. So check this crazy shit out. In this space, right here, in the sand, there's now this strange entrance to a tunnel that brings you to a ladder that leads into Taguchi's house. You remember Taguchi, right? The guy we kidnapped the minister for. It just defies all logic and reasoning. Like, wouldn't the sand collapse in? And where's the ladder coming from? It's like we just busted through the floor. And I realize I'm overthinking something nobody cares about, but it's like this wasn't here before. It just spawned in for our benefit. Hey, it's convenient, so let's go with it. Satan's demons have already begun occupying the town, and a couple are even right here in the house with us. Bring them down, and outside, what appears to be human soldiers have rounded up the townspeople and put them in makeshift prisons. Except, wait a second, these soldiers are actually demons too. They look normal at a distance, but you get up close and bam, a bunch of plants in disguise. I'd love to know how these flowers managed to put on a suit of armor. Inside the castle, you gotta cut your way through even more. Full suits of plate armor in here, stuffed with evil donkeys and lizards and shit. Now remember, we were in here before during that stealth segment, so you should generally already know the layout. This time though, we're going straight for the throne room. Now before you get there, there's a really important item that you don't want to miss. It's an accessory called Idaten Dasuki. I alluded to this way earlier. It's the one that lets whoever equips it act first during combat no matter what. I have no idea what the name means. I think it relates to something Buddhist. I searched it up and got pretty much just results for this game, so that's how you know it's complicated. I think there are other ways you can get this item later, like through random drops, but you might as well just get it here, because it's incredibly useful during the upcoming bosses. Once you've got this item and made it to the throne room, get ready for what happens. I'm going to paint the scene for you for what's going on, because it's not super obvious just by looking at these charming retro-style sprites. It's really fucked up too, so here we go. Mephisto's up there in the back, and he's arranged this crazy jigsaw-style torture scenario. Taguchi and his wife are being held hostage, and Taguchi is being forced to hold a heavy weight over his wife's head. While he holds this weight, Mephisto stabs him, and the game is to see whether he drops it or not. Spoiler, he does, and his wife dies. I mean, dude, holy shit! It's another surprisingly brutal scene, even though it doesn't really show you what happens. I remember reading some Japanese post about this, and I wish I could find it now, but I just can't. What they were pretty much saying is that this game had a child-friendly rating when it released, and they couldn't believe how morbid it got. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just the scenes with the Piper, right? But nah, they just keep inventing more of these evil-ass scenarios to happen. Obviously, Taguchi's overwhelmed with grief, and Mephisto's eager to wipe us out as well, which leads into our second bout against the guy. Let me tell you, this one's tough. This dude is constantly spitting out status effects. Confusion, paralysis, it's so annoying. If you have that Idaten Dasuki, Ain can use his manly stance and tank all that on himself, but that means every turn, you have to clear it out, or your whole party gets screwed when you fall behind. It buys you a little bit of time, and that's what you need here. Even with that item though, I was still having trouble with this fight, because Mephisto is just incessant with his tricks. He bent my ass over in that throne room and spanked me raw like 3,000 times, until finally I said enough was enough and left the castle. Yeah, if he wants to play dirty, well so can we. You remember Koyota Village? Well, the accessory shop there sells amulets that make you immune to the status effects Mephisto uses. With these, and the other item, the fight's much more manageable. But as you can see here, it's still not a total walk in the park. When you're in the clear, Mephisto hands us the seal of the Demon King, and commands us on Satan's orders to go and directly challenge him in his lair, Pandemonium. The entrance to Pandemonium can be found on the Ceramega continent. And before you go in here, you'll really want to make sure you're ready, because the place is huge and has several bosses to work through. I was in here for a few hours, which is a stark contrast from most stages that take like 15 minutes or so at most. It's a fitting challenge for the Demon King, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to backtrack out of. When you touch the portal, you see another star appear on that one platform before Cain, and then you have to navigate a brief entry hallway before reaching the dungeon itself. Okay, so if you're familiar with the first Shinyaku game, this might look familiar, because it is literally the same dungeon that Lucifer occupied in that game. They moved around the treasure chests, but I'm saying like besides that, it's the exact same layout, which must mean we've reached the same place. It's so confusing though, because why is it Satan in this game? Does the ownership swap out every so often? Do they like lease it out to each other? I don't know, and they don't really explain it, so believe what you want, I guess. I'm not sure if you really meant to think about it that much, but my headcanon, or whatever you want to call it, is that it's a function of this universe for there to be a staging ground like this for whoever tries to rise to power. It always looks the same and happens to involve some kind of religious figure. The ending of the first Shinyaku game seems to suggest that it might work like this, because Nakajima based universal law off of Earth religion. That's about the best theory I could come up with. So you got 3 long paths here. Left, right, and middle. The side routes only lead to treasure, so if you don't want it, you can shoot straight down the center. The monsters are pretty tough, and as you draw closer to Satan's throne, the other archdukes move in to intercept you. The first of these is Belial, who gave me a lot of trouble initially. He's got an interesting move, we'll say, where he can just kill you. I mean, look at this, nearly 700 damage to everyone in the party? The only way I can think of to counter that is Ain's manly stance, which is why I said earlier that it's pretty much mandatory. The thing is though, that means Ain's gonna die every single turn that this move gets used. So you're gonna have to have a demon with a revival spell to bring him back, or you'll find yourself in the same position not long after. Something else to keep in mind is that Ain's move takes 10 MP to use, and he doesn't have much more than like 100. So unless you really want to grind out some levels and increase it, you're kind of on a time limit too. Some of you might say, well, what about buffs? It is possible to boost your defense, but it might take too long for this fight for it to really matter. If you have access to defensive buffs, hey, I guess it can't hurt. Attack buffs, on the other hand, really will give you a noticeable boost. It's a bit uncommon to find the ability on demons, but I had a nymph that could use them, and it does help. After the fight, Ain gets kinda meta for a second and says he's willing to die for us to take down Satan, which gets Leon even more nervous than he already is. Well, he's already died for us several times, and a lot more are due to come. The last of the Archdukes is Baal. Once again, he can just kill you if he wants. It's pretty ridiculous. The same strategies apply here. Have Ain absorb the damage, revive him immediately, boost yourself if you can, and use the hardest hitting moves you have. Interestingly, Baal actually has less health than Belial, so if you play your cards right, he can be taken down in 5 or 6 turns. The longer these two fights drag on, the worse they get, so try to act fast. At the very top of Pandemonium, finally, is Satan, who surveys the world's suffering through a magic crystal. He tells us he's realized humans are actually quite brilliant in the way that they endure so much pain, and watches as Taguchi, distraught after what happened at the castle, takes his own life back at home. The team's disgusted by how unabashedly evil Satan is, who promises to decorate Pandemonium with our heads. And from there, the battle against Mystra's first lordly candidate begins. So maybe you're thinking there's not a whole lot to Satan's character. He hates humanity and relishes in its pain, and that's about it. Yeah, it's true, he's pretty basic. There's definitely a lot of build-up to the encounter, but just like with Cain, he doesn't really feel like a proper villain. We haven't seen him directly do much, and even Mystra said she didn't especially care for him. It's all kinda supposed to clue you in that he actually is a shitty candidate to lead the world. A one-trick pony that has no depth beyond his willingness to exterminate the entire planet. Mystra's obviously the more interesting character, but until this guy and Lucifer are out of the way, we can't dive much further into that. Anyway, despite being an absolutely terrible leader, Satan is still very strong and presents the toughest challenge of the game so far. He has over 12,000 HP and powerful attacks, meaning you're in for a bit of an endurance round. He actually hits so hard and so frequently that it's difficult to keep up. My MP would always stall out around halfway through, and from there it was certain death every time. It took me several tries to realize that you need big HP numbers to pull through this. When I said it's a huge pain to backtrack out of here, I was speaking from experience because I actually decided to go all the way back to Alftown so I could upgrade my party with Abon. I just couldn't find a way to survive the fight without boosting my demon's vitality. It just wasn't happening, even with buffs. It was like impossible to keep up the momentum. But you know what? Then I came back and got my ass handed to me again. So eventually I came up with a trick to beating this, and it's kinda out there. I'm sure there are other ways, but here's what worked for me. The demon Ganesha has an ability that saps the MP from the enemy side. If you can stay alive long enough and spam that over and over, eventually Satan actually will run out of juice, and then the fight is way easier to handle. Now keep in mind, you still need to be buffing, you still need high HP, and you still need Ain's help. But with all these things together, well, you can do it. Again, I'm sure there are other ways, but this is the extremely specific setup that worked for me. When Satan falls, he cries out in rage and vanishes, which bothers Ain because we didn't exactly see him die. He might still be out there somewhere, but he must be gone for a while because now Lucifer's army's making their move. We barely get to leave Pandemonium before Rin frantically calls and says the Archangel Gabriel has begun culling a safe haven for the elderly called Lepi Village. Leon thinks it sounds like a trap, and it sorta does. The timing's too perfect. But unless we want to sacrifice a whole lot of people, we'll have to fall into it anyway. From here, you have a bit of a break, I'd say, before the next big dungeon crawl. Lucifer has his own version of Pandemonium to tear through, but they give you a breather and throw some smaller obstacles in your way before that. Lepi Village is directly south to the Pandemonium portal. It's sorta like a nursing home village, or a hospice for plague victims, but it's not peaceful at all. It's got really bad vibes, actually. The first person we see tells us to leave, and inside the central building, there are people lying on beds and in the floor, writhing in pain. Upstairs, the facility manager is already aware of Gabriel's actions, and just doesn't seem to care. He gives us a key to the nearby Lepi Tower, which is where the culling is taking place, and takes a real attitude with us, saying that nobody here even asked us to come and help. Then in the back of the property, there's this cabin where a couple of guys are loading up furnaces. And I'll give you 3 guesses as to what they're burning. Come on, really use your imagination here. Yeah, it's dead old people. There's just a whole room of corpses back here. It's like everyone's just so done with life, they literally don't care about anything. They've all accepted there's no hope of recovering from the plague, and they've become so callous about it. Well look, they might not care about some angelic asshole murdering everyone, but I don't like it, so let's stop Gabriel anyway. Lepi Tower is to the north, and it's a real throwaway type of stage. Not much to say, just go up until you're done. You find the Archangel flanked by a couple of knocked out citizens, and he explains that they're simply going to be granted Lucifer's mercy. Ain tells him to stop playing God, which really pisses him off, and from there, a fight breaks out. Now if I can comment on the design here for a second, because I imagine people are going to ask. The Archangels seem to be referred to in text as male, but the sprites, to me at least, appear feminine. Now obviously I'm not saying a guy can't look like that, but I think the idea is supposed to be that they're, well, angels, not humans. They're beings of spirit, so really they're neither male nor female, you know? You can see this in other games in the franchise too. In Shin Megami Tensei 1, Gabriel looks masculine, I'd say, but in Shin Megami Tensei 2, much different. Angels don't really play by the rules of humans. Their whole identity and appearance can be completely different depending on the context of their presence and who they're talking to. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, this fight's not too hard, but there is one annoying gimmick to look out for. Gabriel can do a full heal practically whenever, so you gotta be slapping on the damage or you're gonna be here all night. Ganesha's MP sucking power might come in handy here if you're really having trouble. When you pull through, we're told the leader back at the nursing home has a gift for us on Lucifer's orders. We also rescue the 2 people that were brought up here, even though they're terminally sick. Leon seems unsure if we actually made the right call here, and asks if a life of pure pain until death has any meaning. Just like back with Luna's parents, you're given a choice of how to respond. I personally said yes, because who's to say what the real meaning of life is anyway? If you were alive, at one point you meant something to someone, ergo it had some meaning. I get what they're going for though. Was it right to prolong these people's suffering just so they wouldn't be killed by an angel? It's hard to say really, and I think you need more context to make the true call. Do they have any regrets, or anything else they want to take care of before going? Anything else they need to say to someone? Maybe if they were like truly checked out, you could argue we just made it worse, but it still feels bad to let them be murdered. Back at the village, we're given the Mark of the Saint, which gives us access to Lucifer's hideout. The old man still seems sour about the whole incident with Gabriel, and sharply says they can't treat anybody here, before telling us to go and confront Lucifer. It's like they're stretched so thin here that he was willing to look the other way and let some of his people be killed off. And although that is pretty fucked up, at the same time, you can kinda get what he means. I don't agree with it necessarily, but look at it like this. We're the glorious heroes who can swoop in, save the day, and then wash our hands of the entire situation, while he's the one who actually has to stay behind and try to care for people who actually have no hope. It's tough for sure. Before hitting up Lucifer's place, we get one more call from Rin to swing back by HQ, and thank God, it's because Luna's ready to rejoin the party. We're almost at the end of the game, and I was kinda worried during my playthrough that we'd have to take out the rest of the Archangels without her. In the video here, it probably doesn't feel like that long of an absence, but it's a few dungeons and several challenging bosses. It's more than a couple hours in game. So Luna realized that all of us have lost our parents one way or another, and with the help of Marlowe's assistant, she was able to process her grief and get back to making things better for others in the present, unshackled by her past. The group shares a heartwarming moment and then turns to the next order of business. Lucifer's hideout is on an island off the coast of Saramega. It's the place that I mentioned was being guarded by the demon Leviathan. To get there, you have to start by going to Saramega Port Town by crossing through Mew Cave again. There's another path in here you can take that skips over the Piper's murder lair. The mayor here is more than willing to provide a ship for us if we'll kill Leviathan, and the funny thing is you actually have to wait for it to be built. After you talk to the mayor's guy down at the docks, you have to go outside and complete something like 10 random encounters. Shinyaku 1 had a gimmick like this too, where you were waiting for Lucifer's egg to hatch, except in that game he was a good guy. Anyway, so you go around, you kill some shit, and eventually they'll finish construction on the boat. When you finally have it, surprisingly you can't steer it or anything. As soon as you get on, it's like an on-rails segment straight to the boss, so rest up before you even think about touching it. As expected, before we can reach the island, the gargantuan Leviathan emerges from the ocean, ready to swallow us all. And we gotta bring him down. I like his design. I think it's cool how there's flames coming off his head, like he's some kind of huge vehicle himself. I don't know why, but it makes me imagine like a coal-powered submarine crossed with a whale or something. Pretty neat. Leviathan's health is only slightly less than Satan, but he's not nearly as dangerous. You've just got to watch out for paralysis and a group targeting attack that hits for moderate damage. With Luna back on healing duty, you shouldn't have a whole lot of trouble, although she does need to catch up on levels. If you're having issues, I'd grind out a few points for her, or just fuse a couple new demons and raw dog it that way. When the path is clear and the coast is secure, we see another star appear up in space, and then it's on to Lucifer's dungeon, called Seraphic Grand. Guess what this is? It's Pandemonium but yellow. No joke, it's like 99% the same layout again. That's a bit lazy, but at least the bosses are different. But come on, they couldn't change it a little bit more? Oh boy. So our first challenger here is Uriel. This one's a lot like the Gabriel battle, in that you'll have to worry about the boss healing again. Now the strategy I used for this fight is not easy to replicate, but I'm gonna have to show you it anyway because it's what I did. One of my demons here had a sealing spell. If this lands, it completely prevents the boss from using magic whatsoever. Uriel's resistance to that is supposed to be something like 98%. But it worked for me after a few tries, and there was nothing to it after that. With no magic, Uriel falls fast, and it's on to the next. Failing this, you'd pretty much just have to go balls out and deal as much damage as possible before the healing comes in. It's annoying for sure, which is why I shat my pants when the seal actually stuck. What can I say? I'm a lucky guy. So lucky that I did that shit again when Raphael came in. I should actually just get up right now and play the lottery or something. I mean, you only get so much luck in your life to burn through, and clearly I'm on a streak right now. Of course I had to use most of it on this damn game. This fight went by in a flash too, because I was able to shut it down just like that. It was kinda sick. As Raphael fades, we're told this was all fated to happen. It's meant to be that we face off against Lucifer and die. Nah, it's fated to be that I'm about to put my whole savings down on a blackjack table right after we finish this. As we approach the end, the party can feel Lucifer's presence, and Ein tells everyone to stay confident, because we were able to beat Satan even without Luna's help. At the throne, Lucifer mocks us, again calling the human race little more than cattle to be controlled. He finds it funny that we think we can stop the plague, but Ein shoots back at him, revealing that a cure may actually be in the works already, which shocks the rest of the party who had no idea about that. One by one, the entire group announces their presence and their intent to kill Lucifer. Ein Lovecraft, the right hand of the Mad King. Leon, the Mask of Death. Luna, the Saint of the Gospel. And of course, Louis, the red-caped Beastmaster. Our character doesn't actually talk though, Luna does it for us. Everyone's fully determined to stop Mystra's second candidate and buy back humanity's freedom. And so, it begins. Much like Satan, Lucifer is another ass-bag character with no depth. Oh, you want to control humanity? Or kill everyone or something? It's like, geez, get in line, man. You know, people who work at the DMV want to do that too. Mystra really got the shit end of the stick when it comes to these candidates. Well, you got nearly 15,000 HP to burn through with this guy, and a whole host of status effects to deal with. But you're not gonna believe it. You're really not. I sealed him! It's the third fight in a row where that worked! I can't believe they let you seal Lucifer, but you can, and from there it's just a matter of gradually wearing him down. You even have a slight chance of inflicting poison or sleep if you want. I really like that this game lets you use the status effects that much. This is one of the biggest bosses in the whole thing, like we're getting really close to the end. You'd think they'd cut the shit and make you slog through it, but no, anything's on the table. If you do struggle to proc something on Lucifer, you'll have to deal with his deadly group targeting attack, and your party will start to look all different shades of fucked up, like this. But just keep trying, and you will pull through. And there you have it. Both candidates for the throne off the slate. From here, things start to wind up even further to the completely insane and frankly awesome final act. Your first taste of that is a series of events that last like 45 minutes straight to set it all up. Now I'm going to do my best to summarize everything in a timely fashion, so listen, it's time to get out the real snacks, okay? No stupid shit, like blow your diet, I really don't care. You gotta make this count, because it's about to get real deep. Alright. Back at HQ, the whole squad gathers along with the armies of the world, and a celebration kicks off. Ein addresses the crowd and proudly declares that no evil kings will be born on this day. The heroes of Horus were successful in their mission. Presumably, they're just about to bust out the beer kegs when a soldier shouts out that something awful has happened. The crowd tries to quiet this guy down and tell him that he can wait, but who do you think's causing problems? Of course, it's the Piper. Reports say that he hit Ramza village again, and this time he took the monster family's child, leaving only the mother. This is the first occasion that he's come back around to an old spot for revenge, and so help me, we're gonna put him in the ground for it. Still riding the adrenaline rush from our battle against Lucifer, the team decides to pay the Piper one final visit, as we're cheered on for our bravery by the entire military. The old mayor tells us the Piper's now shacked up in Doki Mairi Cave, a little spot we haven't been to yet. There's one way into this place, and one way out. No hidden tunnels, no tricks. This should really be it. There's absolutely no way he could escape. You find the entrance just over here in the middle of the woods to the west of town. This cave truly is linear. It's just a winding tunnel with no gimmicks or much of anything to speak of. Kinda boring to run through, but it goes by fast. At the far side, we find the Demon Mother, who rushes in to save her child and is subsequently killed on the spot, making that the second family the Pipers totally eliminated. Ein shouts out that this is the most vile creature he's ever encountered, one who would devour not only humans but monsters alike, and children at that. He's even worse than Satan and Lucifer, who at the very least had allies of their own and opinions on the state of the world, even if they were ridiculous. The Piper's just a solitary, silent killing machine, with no clear motive beyond pure destruction. And something like that just can't be allowed to walk around unchecked. With all the power we've gained, the battle's a complete curb stomp. We bury the Piper almost immediately, and although he does survive again, there's no way out. It's the end of the line. So the party blocks the exit as Ein prepares to deliver the killing blow. But then he stops. Ein won't kill the Piper after all that's happened because he saw what his face looked like. He's confirmed to be human, but we're not told who he is. Then things fade out after that and pick up later at a public trial. There's a judge and a soldier here who list out the Piper's crimes, and they estimate his kill count to be somewhere in the triple digits. The whole audience goes nuts and starts chanting for him to be executed. But then, from the sky, Satan and Lucifer's voices can be heard. Turns out there was one part of the whole cosmic war that we weren't clued into. If both of the candidates lost, they had a deal to fuse together to form the true king, a flawless being whose first act will be to annihilate 90% of the world's population to prevent another uprising. Then, right there, they fuse together and create something off-screen, which causes the Piper to start playing his music. The audience flips out, and the soldier swings down his blade to cut his head off, but the sword breaks when it connects with his neck. Everyone pretty much loses their shit after this and starts screaming for him to be killed already, as the party starts to get kinda uncomfortable. The screen goes completely white following this, and we hear a voice, urging the Piper to speak his wishes and make them come true. It's Mystra, who beams down and says she finally gets it. The entire time, the Piper has been the truly qualified candidate. His name is revealed to be Ramirez Crowfield, and then she starts to fuse with him to oppose whatever the hell Satan and Lucifer turned into. And if that wasn't enough, then the Archangel Michael appears, who's working for a third party. Now off the bat, you're not supposed to know this yet, but you can tell right away that he's a little bit different than the other angels. As we've seen, this isn't true of every character, but in this game, Michael is explicitly the same one as in Shinyaku 1. For now, he acts like he's on Mystra's side, but it's not true. Yeah, so he's not with Mystra and the Piper, and he's not with Satan and Lucifer. You know who he's with? Well, it's heavily suggested to be Akemi Nakajima. If you remember the last game, he was his main man. Basically, Michael doesn't want anybody here to become the king, and he wants us to die too, so that Nakajima can keep his spot on the throne in the future. He's like Abon and the Goddess, and he's aware of the entire timeline. He sends some kind of super weapon at us that annihilates the team, and we're only able to survive due to Ein's sheer force of will. Ein stands back up over our bodies and tanks several insanely powerful direct hits, which is enough to basically overheat the weapon and force Michael to retreat. Sadly, Ein's promise to die for us finally comes true. The wounds he sustains here are far beyond what any human could withstand, and he dies a hero, having saved not only us but the rest of the audience. It's a really sad scene, of course. Ein's a great character. He started off as a rival, but became our greatest asset. The best thing we can do for him now is push forward and try to contain the rest of this clusterfuck before it gets way too out of control. It's what he would have wanted. Leon is crushed at the death of his mentor, but we aren't given much time to dwell on it because Mystra's fusion with Ramirez completes, and they both vanish. Then, the being formed by Satan and Lucifer begins to speak. It's Metatron, who claims to be the voice of God, except it can't be because God is Nakajima, and Michael's doing his own thing on his behalf. So another fraud then. One whose power eclipses anything we've seen so far, sure, but still a fraud. Metatron declares that he's going to announce the plan for the creation of a perfect world, and then almost comedically things pause for a second before he says total annihilation of mankind. I thought you were going to cap it at 90% first. I guess everything else that happened after he said that changed his mind. So to execute everybody at the same time, Metatron's plan is to crash Horus's moon into the surface of the planet, turning it molten and erasing everything nearly instantaneously. Then he stops talking, everyone starts screaming, and things fade out again. Okay, so let's pause for a second. Now I know that's a lot of stuff that just happened, but let's talk about the Piper. Ramirez Crowfield. Do you remember the cave with the Minotaur? Crowfield Cave, right? It was named after that violent couple that caused all those issues back in town. They must be his parents then. And Leon had a strange reaction to that place too. Now think, Ian saw Ramirez and refused to kill him, and we don't know what happened to Leon's family. What I'm trying to say here is all signs point to Leon being a Crowfield himself. Guess we'll have to see if we're right about that. When the game comes back, we're at the Mad King's HQ. Now we can kill some bad guys, but the moon falling? Unless you're about to show me 4 temples with 4 unique masks to collect, I'd say that's a bit out of our league. It's so out of our league that Abon, the interdimensional wizard, has to take a direct role in the story from here on out, on the goddess's orders. Abon essentially assumes control of humanity's remaining forces and lays out a plan to land a ship on the moon, deliver a bomb into its core, and blow it up before it reaches everyone. There's just a couple problems with the idea. We don't have a starship, and we don't have a bomb that can blow up the moon. Fortunately, Abon's ass is so smart, he knows how to do all this, and only needs our help to see the plan through. He orders our team to collect 10 pieces of magnetite to construct an explosive device, and says we can focus on the ship after that. Hey, if he thinks we can do it, I'm along for the ride. Sadly though, Leon doesn't feel the same way, and hasn't quite gotten over Ein's death. He thinks we've all moved on from that a bit too quickly, and abandons the mission out of frustration. This really surprises everybody because, well, we're all about to die, and I doubt Ein would have wanted him to quit. He'll be back, but we can't get through to him for a while. To take Leon's place, you can actually ask Abon to come along with you. It's kind of funny because there's really no point at all. He leaves the team right after you get the magnetite. But if you want to walk around for a while with a level 99 beast who might as well be a nuclear missile himself, you can. From here you're given free reign to acquire that magnetite however you'd like. Rin and Sato give you some suggestions of places to search for it, but however you can swing it is fine by them. Depending on where you've been grinding, it's possible you could already have the materials, although it would take up a huge portion of your inventory space. What I decided to do was grind out Cerberus and Orthrus encounters next to Saramega Port Town. Ideally, it shouldn't take that long to rack up 10 pieces, but magnetite is considered a rare drop, so it's one of those things where if you're unlucky, you could be here for hours in theory. You just gotta power through and hope for the best. After you've finished up, Abon tells everyone to get some rest, and the next day, our task is to help him get our hands on a starship. The simple fact is, the technology just doesn't exist on this planet, so we're not gonna build one. No, the plan is to transport the Ark built by Michael in the future from Shinyaku 1, back to now, all the way from the planet Legaia. Again, you can't think about this too hard, because the ship wouldn't exist in the future if we failed here. The human mind is just not equipped to handle shit like this. It's a time paradox. Anyway, this all begs the question, how do you pull a ship backwards in time from a different planet? Well, Abon's got this little gadget thing, and we need to bring it to a place where there's a strong concentration of Gaia. Then supposedly the goddess of Legaia can send the ship through. Nobody here in-game really understands what the hell he's talking about, but we as the player at least know Legaia, so okay. Really late that same night, Luna wonders if Leon will ever return. And speak of the devil, what do you think happens? Leon kidnaps her in her sleep for a secret meeting. He's not doing so well and says he can't rely on anyone, even our character. Luna asks if he really wants to lean on others like Ein his entire life, or finally stand on his own. And this really sets him off to the point that he flies off the rails. What follows is a really weird 1v1 battle segment where you play as Luna, but you can kill Leon in one hit. Aside from it just being immersive, I guess, I don't really understand why they made this part playable when it might as well have been a cutscene. Looking back, it just sticks out as a pretty bizarre moment. After it's over, he just runs off, and Luna never mentions it. The place we need to go the following morning is actually an old location we skipped over. It's that evil cave in the desert on the Din continent that everyone said to avoid at all costs. As you work your way to the bottom here, scenes of Leon randomly cut in. He makes his way back to Arcadia on his own and digs through Marlowe's notes. But as he's reading, fucking Mephisto, presumably revived by Metatron, I don't know, starts attacking the town. Leon totally ignores this chaos and focuses on his reading all nonchalant, until he uncovers pages that trigger his memory. When Ein found Leon as a child abandoned by his parents, Leon was actually the one to save the day. They were cornered by monsters, and he unleashed this insane spell that wiped them all out. After that, when Ein took him in, he forgot his abilities. In essence, he suffers from a learned helplessness. There are some notes where Ein explains that Leon is more powerful than anyone can imagine, and that's why he was chosen as a gospel child. Even way back during his childhood, Ein and Marlowe thought that if Leon were ever forced to live on his own again, these powers would return, which explains why Ein was so eager to let him journey with us at the start of the game. He was hoping Leon would unlock his true potential, but it took until now for that to happen. As the main party reaches the bottom of the caverns, we're tasked with killing off a whole gigantic room of monsters. Most of them are these bird people, and it feels kind of bad, like, I don't know, they're not really bothering anything. The logic is that if one of them were to interfere with the teleportation device, I guess that'd be curtains for the entire planet, so you have no choice in the matter. It's just a bird wearing Walmart sweatpants, like, come on. Well, it takes a few minutes, but once your sociopathic massacre is complete, the device is set, and we see the goddess of Legaia send the ship to the surface above. All while that's going on, Mephisto gets closer to where Leon is. But when he gets there, look at this shit. The entire screen cuts out, and based on the dialogue, it sounds like Leon's finally regained his courage. In layman's terms, Mephisto gets a spear shoved up his ass, and Leon walks out. Nice. Now with the ship, we have access to literally the entire world. To advance the plot, you have to go back to the Mad King's HQ, but we're right on the cusp of the game being over, and there are some optional locations you might want to check out first. I'm just going to run you through these real quick just to show them off, because why not? So first up, on the Halmoon continent, there's a place called Mount Melchio, where you can fuse more bones and talk to some isolated wizards. These guys are aware of Abon's existence, which is pretty interesting. They could actually meet him if they just left this rock out in the middle of nowhere. Then there's this small settlement out in the ocean with more wizards. You can find this by going north from Mount Melchio and just a little bit to the west. I'm saying like 1 or 2 tiles. They actually sell some really useful equipment here, so it is worth a visit. You can also pick up some funny scenes. There's one guy who refers to our ship as an iron bird, and there's another guy who says he'll give us some unbelievably valuable information if we give him all of our money. If you agree to this, he really does take all of it, and then laughs, saying he knows you're just going to reload an old save anyway to get it back. At the time, I had something like $400,000, and yeah, I did reload a save. Smartass. The last thing you pick up here is a clue about another hidden location. It's this tiny island 2 tiles wide in the ocean to the west of Din Castle. The whole point with this spot is that it has a high chance of spawning rare enemies that I'm pretty sure give you a lot of XP when killed, or maybe a lot of money. I tried fighting them a few times, and on all occasions they ran away before I could do anything. It's like a Dragon Quest Metal Slime type of situation. And honestly, that's about it for airship exclusive locations. There is another we're going to see in just a few seconds for the plot, but really nothing too crazy you can miss. Back at base, Abon establishes that our ship doesn't exactly have enough power to fly directly to the moon, so he needs us to fly over top of a geoglyph he set up in the ocean, and with magical powers somehow he can slingshot us over to it. This little maneuver is going to use up all of Abon's energy temporarily, so if anyone tries to interrupt the process, it's going to be on us to stop them promptly. Obviously that means some dipshit's going to come in and do that. Of course, when we get there, it takes all of about 5 seconds for Michael to appear, who starts arguing with Abon about things that go way beyond the main cast's understanding. Michael asks Abon why he's getting so involved in the story compared to last time, and Abon quips back that it's not really this world's incarnation of Louis he should be worried about. Michael's not really hearing it though, and he whips out his big ass thing again to obliterate our combined forces. This time we're only saved at the last possible moment by Leon, who's ditched his old costume and now speaks with unshakable pride and confidence. It's time to give Pac-Man's cracked out cousin a run for his money. Oh yeah, and for you careful observers, check this out. Earlier I talked about how Luna looks like Lizelle from Shinyaku 1. Well, it turns out Leon actually does look like Alice, so there you go. Pretty crazy. Anyway, before the fight starts, Leon shouts out his name in the same style as Ein, and it's revealed here that his full name really is Leon Crowfield, confirming that the Piper's his brother and that evil couple were their insane parents. I guess he was able to piece it together with all those notes at Marlowe's place. Now, as to how this influences the way we deal with the Piper, I have no idea, at least not yet. Nonetheless, Leon now has access to the absurdly powerful Ronka line of spells, seen in most Last Bible games, and with these, you can mop the floor with Michael's pet. In the aftermath, Leon then apologizes to Luna for trying to beat her up in the middle of the night, and to the rest of us for his behavior before, and happily rejoins in our mission to blow up the moon. I feel like what happened with Luna is pretty crazy, but you know, okay, water under the bridge. Gotta love the power of friendship. It's like, look, okay, I kidnapped you once because I was feeling bad. I won't do it again. Alright, now this is the point of no return. You can come back from the moon if you have to, but if you get all the way to the final boss and you're not ready, it's a long, long journey home. So try to be as prepared as possible before you leave. Make any last minute upgrades, buy the best equipment you can find, and don't forget this one, stock up on MP restoring items. You can buy endless stacks of these at that wizard settlement in the ocean. They're called Gaia pots, and it's a good idea, just trust me. Once you're ready, pass over the geoglyph, and we see the ship leaving Horus, hurtling through space. As the party readies themselves for the final approach, Abon contacts us remotely and explains that the magnetite bomb can only be ignited properly by one object in the entire universe: the Force Sword. The only ones who can wield this weapon are referred to as qualified ones. Simply put, people who are fit to rule over creation and fill the role of God. We know Louis's future incarnation is one such person, and that means this version is too. So we have to tap into that power to pull this off. Abon also notes that Metatron specifically wants to kill us to take our place as a qualified one, and Michael's not happy about that either. To help us access our hidden power, Abon set up a trial for us to endure, a journey of self-acceptance. We're sent alone through a portal placed in some big empty chamber on the ship, and then our surroundings morph into a vast forest. So what exactly is this place? Well, we're inside our own heart. Metaphorically speaking, I guess. This area is like the Lost Woods in Zelda. You can't get out unless you take the exact right path. You just have to give this a little bit of trial and error, and eventually you'll get it. When you reach the other side, it's our house, with Lana standing out front. We never did truly process what happened here. We got so caught up in revenge and Mystra's bullshit that we didn't even bury the family properly. We have to go home and really accept what happened and why we're still fighting. Lana stands with her back to us at first, but then turns around and happily greets us. She's thrilled that we've finally returned and runs off to tell our parents. Our father meets us at the door and nobody can believe we're back. Mom can easily walk again and says that since we've been gone, the plague's been cured. They say it's been over a year since we left, and that when Lana went to get her flute, she actually found it, and we were the ones to disappear afterwards. With the whole family staring directly at us, our father asks if we'd stay forever, and they won't take no for an answer. You have to say yes. After that, you spend a day or two just living a normal life, playing outside and having a good old time, just like at the start of the game. Clearly, this is all an illusion, right? They want us to give in and live out this imaginary fantasy, instead of going back to the real world with that crazy-ass plot we found ourselves in the middle of. Maybe it seems nice at first, you know, but then it gets a little weird. One night, our father takes us aside and does the whole "you're adopted" speech again. Except this time he asks if we'd take over the homestead and marry Lana. Is that not so fucked up on so many levels? Okay, look, we were raised as siblings, so even if we aren't related by blood, how are you gonna ask me to marry her? In the same sentence I find that out. You know, look, I'm sure back in these medieval societies, they were marrying family members and shit all the time, but still, couldn't you give it like a week before you pop that question? You do get a choice here too, marry your sister or not, and I said no. This makes Dad go completely silent, and then you just wake up back in the Lost Woods. When you make your way back to the cabin again, Lana's different. It's like she's the real version now, the one who died. She's now aware of her fate and understands that we need to get out of here, sadly telling us to erase the family. Lana promises that even though she'll be alone again, she'll become stronger. And then the whole family comes at you after reverting back into decayed corpses. The scene's a punch straight to the gut, but it's proof that Louis never moved on in his own mind. And really, how could you move on from something as awful as losing your entire family like that? It's the type of thing you never fully heal from, and I guess deep down, he was willing to imagine any possible scenario to keep some semblance of his old life. But after all the suffering we've seen in the world, and what we've learned of our grander purpose, we can't give in. We have a bigger role to play. Well, our parents go down easily, although Lana takes quite a few hits to defeat. As the illusion fades, Lana says she won't cry, because she loves us and knows we have to do it. And when we wake up next, that's it, it's over. We've acquired the Force Sword and the Force Break ability. Shit, man. Avon says that with that complete, we've fulfilled part of our soul's destiny, and explains that at this point, if we die, our next incarnation can actually be born like it's supposed to, but all of Horus will still be annihilated. Presumably Metatron would also be making things a lot more difficult for our future self. So yeah, don't die. Thanks, no pressure. Soon after this, we touch down on the lunar surface, where conveniently we can breathe. Avon tells us to search for a crack in the ground where we can move deeper into the moon's core, because a surface detonation won't be enough. And then it's time for one wicked pain-in-the-ass stage. I'm saying like this thing really hurt my ass. I've used this term in the past, but I like to call these Yume Nikki maps. If you played that game, you probably know what I mean. It's just a big open space that loops in on itself, and you're looking for one important thing. A needle in a haystack. There's barely any landmarks or anything, and the encounter rate is steep as ever, so it's easy to get frustrated and totally lose track of where you even are. Look, if you plan on playing this and you're just watching the video for an idea of what to do, I'm just going to tell you straight out, don't even bother suffering through it. From the ship, go west until you see this Y-shaped crater formation. Then from there, just go straight down and you'll find the crack. I know some of you watching are like, really? That's it? Yeah, it's that easy, but with no guidance, I mean, it might as well be on the other side of the universe. It's pretty easy to miss. It's one of those things where if you have bad luck, or you just don't search efficiently, it's gonna take forever to find it. So squeeze through, and holy shit, the moon's hollow. And we're on the path to hell. Really, hell, inside the moon. Avon explains that because of Metatron's power, the interior of the moon is turned into some kind of subspace dimension, and he believes the lower we go, the stranger it'll get. It starts off as a lengthy dungeon consisting of paths surrounded by molten lava. You're attacked by skeletal versions of demons from Horus, and other powerful beings we've never seen before. At the bottom of this layer, we find Michael waiting on a throne. He knows we've gained the power of Force, and hopes to cut us off before we can complete our mission, thus granting his master safety in the future. Michael is extraordinarily powerful, and even has access to the Ronka spells himself. You'll want to get this over with ASAP, because it's not easy to survive if he uses them. It takes several turns to charge up, so you can see it coming, and once you do, it's time to do or die. Leon does have Ain's stance now, so that's an option, but I think you're better served to just focus on attack here. With Louis' Gaia Break, or Force Break, combined with Leon's own Ronka abilities, you'll have turns where you can put out like 8,000 damage if you're using buffs. Have those two focus completely on the offensive, and have everyone else support them however they can. If possible, it might also be smart to try and save your MP restoring items for the very end of the game. You can get through this fight without them, and they're more valuable for the final encounter. When Michael falls, he realizes he's well out of his league, and ducks out of the game for good to go and figure out how he's going to deal with the next version of us. Since he seems to be aware of the entire timeline, he must know it doesn't go too well for him in Shinyaku 1 either. Okay, so from here on, things get a little trippy. We're now smack in the middle of Metatron's hell, but it casts aside the usual lava aesthetic for a series of scenarios depicting human suffering on Horus. It goes on for a good while, so I'm just going to take you layer by layer through it and give you a little overview of what it's like. The first layer consists of a village where the people wander aimlessly, asking why they live, repeatedly saying that it hurts and begging for help. When you talk to this kid in the middle of the place, he complains that a life of hardship awaits him, and then he morphs into a big red face with a wide open mouth as the entire population instantly vanishes. The red face leaves a deep hole in the ground beneath it, and through there we slip into Layer 2. Layer 2 is a replica of the Holy King's headquarters. The people in this one ask why things are being ripped apart. Eventually you get to a dead end, and there's a guy here who comments on the inevitability of losing everyone you love. He also turns into a red floating head before leaving a hole in the floor. Then we have Layer 3, a larger town where many of the residents sleep in beds outside. Everyone here wonders why sickness occurs, and one elderly woman describes her intense symptoms to us. Fever, vomiting, and dull pain, with nothing but death at the end. Of course, she too turns into one of those red faces, before flying upwards into a pond and leaving a hole in the water that kinda defies physics. But hey, I think we started defying physics a long time ago. Layer 4 is the Mad King's HQ, where the theme is hatred. The man at the end of this one says he's forced to live with someone he absolutely hates, and it creates this awful burning feeling inside of him. This gives way to Layer 5, which looks like the Mad King's castle. It's another one filled with people in beds who wonder why they have to age and gradually decay. Interacting with one of the women teleports you to the throne room, where you speak with what appears to be Cain's corpse, who has similar grievances to the others. Then you have Layer 6, a series of warp shrines guarded by soldiers. This one's extremely short, and the soldiers all seem to complain about desire and being unable to attain what they want. Layer 7 is the entire world map of Horus condensed into a much smaller version of itself. It's pretty crazy. You start out on top of Saramega Port Town, and your goal is to make it all the way back home. We find our father there lying on top of it, who asks why we die. Why we all go into that deep eternal darkness eventually. He claims life is meaningless because of this, and then vanishes, giving way to the final stretch of hell, Layer 8. It's our house. Our father appears here again with Mom, but no Lana. Both of our parents simply ask why we suffer before disappearing and leaving one final hole to jump through. This hole leads to a grand and spacious hallway lined with pillars, with Metatron posted up on a golden velvet throne at the end. Metatron greets us and introduces himself again as the voice of God. He says that he was born alongside Mystra in the form of Satan and Lucifer, and he knows how she feels. Mystra is some kind of powerful entity that was drawn to Horus specifically because of its deadly plague. She truly wanted to create a perfect world, but she quickly realized that people are people and they cause problems. As long as humans exist and have free will, there just won't be a perfect world. Now she wants to erase their existence so that suffering ceases entirely, and he totally understands that. It seemed at first like Mystra and Metatron were opposed to each other, and maybe they still kinda are in terms of who ultimately rules after we're gone, but they're about on the same page philosophically speaking. Both are going against the wishes of the current god, who wants to maintain the status quo. Now the status quo arguably sucks, but so does killing everyone. A lot more, I'd say. Before we're forced into combat, Metatron comments that people are so eager to disparage others who really look into the meaning of life and why we suffer, because it ultimately scares them. Of course, he believes there is no point, but I can actually kind of agree with part of what he's saying here. I mean, go outside and make your grievances with the world public. A lot of people don't want to hear that shit. The internet especially is so desperate to tell people it's not that deep if you bother to share your thoughts beyond a surface level on pretty much anything related to real life. Now maybe that's not a fear response as much as it is apathy, but you know, I can kind of get what he's saying. Like I said though, Metatron doesn't understand that you make your own meaning in life. And yeah, it can really suck, but you can still find your own reason to keep going. To impact other people's lives or seek out your own truth. And no singular being should make the decision to pull the cord on everyone's behalf. Some of you might disagree and say, you know what, Marshall, finding your own truth? What the hell are you talking about? But personally, I just don't believe in a life of pure negatives. Like, yeah, I complained at the start of the video about how crazy life's been for me lately, but never once was I thinking about just giving up and burning it all down. Life's not all good, but it's not all bad either. And look, we all die no matter what, so why not live as hard as you can before you go, no matter the circumstance? That's just my 2 cents. So, right, the boss. Surprisingly, it's really easy. I went back on my old ceiling strategy again, and it worked like a charm. The crazy thing is though, Metatron's moveset mimics Nakajima's from Shinyaku 1. He's got a lot of the same abilities, and that was one tough-ass fight, so the sooner you can put a pin in those, the better. Metatron's got close to 22,000 health, which is certainly a lot. But if you got Ronka, Force Break, and some attack buffs, it's really not shit. After it's over, the moon starts falling even faster towards Horus, and Metatron calls out that it's time for the children of the gospel to create change, as they were fated to do. Beyond the throne is a portal that leads to a brief teleporter maze far out in space, overlooking Horus below. If they didn't sneak one of these in at the last second, would it really be a Mega 10 game? As we reach the end, we see the orb Mister was born from, and then we're attacked by a group of those red faces from earlier. So, this is it. This is phase 1 of the final battle, the 4 sufferings. I love how the graphics here kind of break the rules of how the game normally displays an enemy. The faces linger off to the side and seem to hover right in front of you, which no other enemy does. Now, if you're familiar with Buddhism, maybe this whole segment down here in hell sounds pretty familiar. Now look, my understanding is super surface level, okay? I took a class on it in college once, so this is just gonna be like putting it in very general terms. A core concept of Buddhism, if not the core concept, is that suffering is inherent to human life. Only by living virtuously and practicing mindfulness can one escape this cycle and achieve enlightenment. The 4 sufferings are a very real concept and relate to the same things we've seen across the layers of hell in the game here. That's birth, old age, sickness, and death. In real life, those concepts probably don't appear physically like this and make your team members fall asleep and get confused, but in this game they do. It's a relatively simple fight though, and they don't have much health. You'll want to try and get through this as quickly as possible, because you don't get a break before the 2nd or 3rd phases, and any deaths will really put you on the back foot for the rest of the fight, so be careful and do your best. Phase 2 is called the 8 Sufferings, and it's more of the same. To me though, it still looks like there's only 4 of them. The 4 additional sufferings, I guess you could say. These relate to being separated from loved ones, being forced to associate with people you hate, being unable to attain your desires, and finally, the suffering of aggregates, which to put it broadly is like the pain that arises from clinging to a concept of self. So your emotions or health issues. If you identify too heavily with these and forget that they're temporary, you'll find yourself trapped in an endless cycle of pain. It's a pretty cool concept for an ultimate encounter, a physical manifestation of the ugly things that are a part of everyone's life. Now when these guys go down, one of the craziest final bosses I've ever witnessed in Megami Tensei comes out next. The whole screen goes white, and a voice calls out for the savior to be born, to free everything from the endless cycles of misery. And while this is happening, a song starts playing. Now get this, seriously, listen to it. Is that the end of Evangelion? It really is. It's like they heard the song from the movie, and they were like, damn, that's good. Let's use that and just change it a little bit. I mean, the first 30 seconds, it's like uncanny. They totally ripped it off. And yeah, it's cool as shit. At least I think so. This song serves as the backdrop to our final battle against Ruin, the result of the fusion between Ramirez Crowfield, aka the Piper, and Mystra. It comes off like a twisted celebration of an impending world devoid of all life. Like they've already won, and just need to swipe us out of the way to make it a reality. So this fight's hard as balls, and if you lose, look what happens. The music doesn't stop. It doesn't even skip a beat. You die. The screen blanks out, and there's a message informing you that the moon crashed into Horus, turning the planet into a sea of fire. Then, in English, you see this. All lives is over. The perfect world came. Shit! Like, imagine seeing this on your phone right before work. I'd have to call off and just go lay down. You gotta get serious to pull through on this one. I'd say your level should be in the 60s if you can swing it, and if your health can be in the quadruple digits or close, all the more better. You're gonna need it. Pretty much, if anyone besides the protagonist or Leon takes a hit, they're just about dead. That's how it went for me. Leon's gotta be on full tank duty, and Luna has to be cranking out full heals as often as you can manage. And I hope you took my suggestion of buying MP Restorative seriously, because I can't see a way to win this without having like 5 or 10 Gaia pots. Ruin's attack power is just so high, it's ridiculous. If you feel like you have your bases covered, you can try bringing a demon with a sleep spell. The chance of putting Ruin to sleep is really low, but it can work. It'll last for like 1 turn, but that can be enough to give you a breather and resituate yourself. Honestly, the stars have to align for that shit to happen, but it's worth considering. Now, if you're really struggling, all throughout Hell, there are actually secret pieces of weapons and armor that can help out. Unfortunately, I straight up couldn't figure out how to reach most of them, but there is a simple one you can pick up mere steps before this boss starts. Right here, at this spot where there are 6 stars on your right side, you can just walk off into space, and you're brought to a location with a free set of Force armor. I only knew about this because I found it on a Japanese fan site. I have no idea how you're supposed to figure it out, and I imagine like 10 people worldwide know it exists. When you cut through all of Ruin's 35,000 hit points, its freakishly tall sprite silently falls over, and the space around us begins collapsing. The entire Hell subspace dimension completely fades away, and we find ourselves deep inside the moon's rocky core. Abon gives us a call and explains that unfortunately, the moon's gotten way too close to Horus. Our only choice left is to completely juice up the bomb with so much power that it reduces the moon to atoms, or else the pieces are just gonna fall and hit the planet anyway. To do that, we've gotta plunge the Force Sword into the bomb until the moment of ignition. And that means it's over. For us at least. The world's gonna be safe. The universe can live on as it's supposed to, and we can send Leon and Luna back home with our teleportation spell. But it's the end of our story. For now. You're given a moment to say goodbye to your team. Luna doesn't really understand that we're about to blow ourselves up until we've already sent her back home. But Leon immediately gets it and even approves, basically saying that he wouldn't deny us our destiny. In the final few seconds of our life, Ruin appears again and reaches out to touch us. Our hearts and minds then become intertwined, and we're shown a vision of the Crowfield house, depicting Leon and Ramirez as babies. Their mother straight up beats them and complains to the doctor that she never wanted to have them to begin with. Then it cuts to a few years later. The whole family lives in a cave, which later became known as Crowfield Cave. They're extremely poor, and it sounds like the parents are about on their last legs. So, they decide out of rage to murder their own children. Yeah, the mom throws Leon off a cliff, and Ramirez is thrown into the ocean. Miraculously, of course, both survive. But whereas Leon was found by Ain, Ramirez had nobody. Lying on the ground next to the Mount of Olives, Mystra calls out to Ramirez and promises to grant him power. And from there, his long killing spree began. Now online, I did some digging around, and I've seen several different interpretations of why Mystra acts the way she does throughout everything. Let's start with the most obvious. Her true form is Ruin, so most players are probably going to say, okay, she's a powerful entity that was setting out from the very beginning to interfere with Horus, harness its suffering, and wipe out all life to quote-unquote save everyone. The voice of God that Cain heard in his moment of weakness, that saw the arrival of demons, had to be connected to her, and it was probably Metatron, right? Or Michael playing along with their plans for the time being. And that was orchestrated to create even more violence, so she could be reborn on the surface and gather negative energy to see her plan through. That's why she helped Ramirez become the Piper too, to cause more problems and make her even stronger by feeding off his victims' families. Metatron's little speech about being born with her and fully understanding her actions definitely supports all this. That's one way to look at it, and admittedly, the most consistent with everything that happens. I've also seen a Japanese post that claims Mystra and Metatron are basically tools created by Nakajima, and are like other avatars of his, solely intended to stop the protagonist from reaching him in the future. This was just some random ass blog post I found, but it's interesting to think about, and if the game implies it anywhere, it must have gone over my head. The idea, I guess, is that Nakajima would rather wipe out Horus and potentially the rest of life in the universe than lose his spot on top. Nakajima in the first Shinyaku game does have a speech about the suffering he witnessed before reshaping the Earth into Legaia, so it's not too much of a stretch to believe he'd wipe the slate clean again. It also kinda offers an explanation for why Mystra would pull a comp out of her ass, and why Metatron had Nakajima's abilities. What really confuses me about this idea though, whether it's true or not, is that Michael's acting separately from them, and knows about the potential for them to become qualified ones, which seems bizarre if they were both actually under Nakajima's control the entire time. It also begs the question of why Nakajima would let us have a comp in the first place, considering it's like the only reason we survive the game at all. I'm not saying it can't be true, but rather than Mystra or Metatron literally being Nakajima's avatars, it makes more sense to me that they're just incredibly powerful beings that were able to reach a point where they could rival him, and coincidentally, they happen to have a goal that would help him out if successful. Here's my spin on everything. Despite what any character might say about Mystra, whether she's under anyone else's control or not, I like to imagine that during the time at the start of the game, when she was just reborn and hadn't realized she intended to nuke humanity yet, there was still time for her to turn a new leaf and abandon her plans. You gotta remember that not everything she does serves to create more chaos. She was a blank slate after coming out of that egg. She shows empathy when our parents are killed and lets us talk to our dad for a few more seconds. When the cowardly Leon joins our party, she gives him the ability to fuse demons so we can feel better. Remember, the whole thing with her making the Piper happened before she was born again on Horus. In those early stages of her new life, she's glad to help out individuals and make them happier. Only after seeing the whole world crying out for mercy against the plagues and all that does her memory finally trigger, and she remembers she wanted to pull the plug. I think there's definite intention to the fact that she's friendly early on, and that can't be ignored. Maybe if humanity dealt with the stresses of the plague or the monsters a bit better, she would have crashed down here and totally forgot what her original purpose even was. Going along with the game's Buddhist concepts, it's almost like humanity's attachment to its predicament corrupted her new form, when the potential for another outcome existed. That's just what I think. Now, I know that was a lot, and some of it was probably confusing, but the game gives you a lot of room to think with all of its characters and background events. All things considered, it's pretty fascinating. As things start to close out, it's revealed that the Piper stalked our family for a good while, and was jealous that Lana was so loved by them. So he killed her, took her stuff, and couldn't understand why our parents wouldn't accept him if he was just like her. He didn't really want power to begin with, he just wanted to be loved by somebody. You actually have one more duel against Ramirez after seeing the whole intro play out again, and then you're brought to the game's final decision. Here we are, face to face. Do you kill him, or let him go? Now, the way video games normally work, you'd probably think you're expected to forgive him, right? Yeah, he might be unforgivably evil, but after seeing his traumatic backstory, and the reason he was unable to live a normal life, it looks like you're being set up to spare him. Your gut instinct is probably saying, to get the good ending, you have to let him go. But no, if you spare Ramirez, Ruin wins. You have to kill him to get the good ending, and that really surprises me for some reason. You could look at it as an act of mercy because he's now merged with Mystra, or, it could also just be the appropriate punishment for ending the lives of hundreds of people, including children. So you deal the killing blow, Ramirez and Mystra separate from each other, and the game ends. But oddly, not before Michael comes in and steals Mystra's corpse. What the hell is that about? In the epilogue, Leon calls out to us and says that all of the monsters have disappeared and the plague has been cured. He now seems to be in a relationship with Luna, and says that while the world still isn't perfect and violent crimes continue to happen, it's much better than before, and the people are gradually starting to enjoy being outside again. Inevitably then, it wasn't some god or a supreme king that brought about positive change. It was just us. Abon might have needed to step in to give us equal footing on the cosmic battleground, but the ultimate sacrifice was ours. Some guy who spent most of his life living in the woods. In the face of certain destruction, humanity's willpower, the common man, is what saved the day. Before the credits finally run, we get to see one more scene that's frankly ridiculous. It's just so cool, I'm sorry. We see Louis' next incarnation spawn into existence on the planet Legaia, and then friggin' Master Vayne and his best soldier Goliath find him, and from there the events of Shinyaku 1 begin to play out. I mean, it's just so perfect, come on, it ties it all in a bow. I got out of my chair, I was clapping, I was crying, I was throwing roses at the screen. This shit is like an MCU post-credit scene, but for someone who's completely out of their mind. Me. In all seriousness though, it's pretty cool. And that's it. I gotta say, I didn't expect this game to be so long, and I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Like I said at the beginning, I was kinda worried 7 games in that there'd be some franchise fatigue going on here, but it's way better than most of the other games in the Last Bible series. I still think my favorite is Last Bible III, but Shinyaku 2 comes pretty close. It's just as good as the one before it, which I really enjoyed. I highly recommend playing this game for yourself, even if you watch me play the whole thing just now. Obviously there's the caveat that it's fully untranslated. Well, except for that one line in English. But if any of you out there are learning Japanese, and you want to find ways to practice, this would be a perfect way to do so. I get comments fairly often saying, what's the best way to learn? How do you get better at Japanese? Now look, I'm no expert, okay? Clearly, but if you want to get better at reading, you gotta bash your head against stuff like this. There are some tricky words here and there, but as far as understanding the combat and general idea of the game, it's not too bad at all to pick up as some study material. And if you aren't studying Japanese, well, I've heard there are people out there working on translating some of the Gmod games already, so hopefully this boosts visibility for this game to get more interest. It's a solid classic-style JRPG, worth a look from any enthusiast. Now before we really wrap up, there is some post-game stuff I want to talk about. We'll spin through it pretty fast. It's just a couple extra dungeons and some challenge bosses. Not really any plot stuff, but I wouldn't want to leave it out after covering everything else. Just like Shinyaku 1, the post-game takes the form of a kinda humorous adventure into the realms of the old gods. Abon always wants to go home after the game's over, but he can't clear out the ancient cosmic horrors blocking the way on his own. So we kinda just revive from the dead to help him out with that. The entrance to these bonus stages can be found in Alf Town, in the newly unlocked back room of where Abon hangs out. The first dungeon is called the Enkai, and it's a returning location from the previous game. I'm pretty sure the layout's the exact same, or really close. This place is crawling with new and powerful demons, which makes it pretty easy to get your level up into the 80s or 90s if you want to grind. Yet again, the boss waiting for you in the lowest depths is Sathagwa. In the last game I thought this was a pretty tough fight, but with the new skills and everything in Shinyaku 2, it's actually pretty easy. Sathagwa has like 60,000 health, which sounds just completely ridiculous and unbearable at first, but he's very susceptible to sleep and poison, so you could definitely win here without being hit a single time. Also, I said this last time, but I'm never going to get used to this design. It's just so much going on. Definitely fitting for what the character is though. Now the real dick and balls of the postgame this time are the bosses that come after this. You get one extra dungeon in this one called the Ultimate Void. You meet another Lovecraft mythos character here called Umar Atawil, who appears in the form of a sexy nerd to test you and see if you can stand up to the great and powerful Yogg-Sothoth. The stage itself is just another giant cave, but once you've completed it, you're allowed to fight both of them whenever you'd like. It's revealed then that Yogg-Sothoth was recently reborn, and right now looks like a literal baby with pink hair. Pretty funny twist, and it's one hell of a fight too, just wait. So the real point of these fights, I guess, is to unlock impossibly powerful spells and upgrades. Now, where are you going to use those? Good question, because I have no idea. It's just more stuff you can do if you're some kind of freak and just can't put this game down. And I am, so let me show you. Umar Atawil is the easier of the two. This fight's closer in difficulty to Ruin, and actually the same strategies can be used, even down to the sleep spells sometimes working. But the little gimmick they throw in is that you have 180,000 HP to burn through. What can you say but God help us all, like seriously, holy shit. For the casual player, it's pretty much just an endurance test. But the thing is, there are actually special rewards you can get for beating this fight in 5 turns or less. It sounds like a sick joke, but you really can do it if you master the buffing system. See, in most other Megami Tensei games, buffs have a limit they can reach before your damage stops going up. But in this game, if you can get a bunch of different demons with the same spell, it stacks exponentially. This is hard to pull off during the main game, but here at the end, when you have access to everyone and everything, it's just a matter of fusing for a while to create the perfect team. If you do it right, you can in fact dish out 180,000 points of damage in one turn. And you will absolutely have to know how to do that for Yogg-Sothoth. No ifs, no ands, no buts, because this little bastard has 1 million HP. Nah, just kidding. It's 999,999. Yeah, hope that makes you feel better. The rewards for pulling this off just straight up aren't worth it, okay? Winning is just for bragging rights, that's it. I really don't care about having the extra spells or whatever the hell they're trying to sell me. 1 million? Who let them do that? If you beat this fight, you're a machine. It's just that simple. You should be kept off the streets. Closing things out, there's actually one more fight against Abon himself, but you have to register every single demon in the entire game into your encyclopedia, and he only has like 100,000 health. It feels funny to say only 100,000, but that's how fast the postgame escalates. It's just one more gimmick fight for the truly dedicated. And that, my friend, is Megami Tensei Gaiden, Shinyaku Last Bible II, Hajimari no Fukuin. I have no idea what they could possibly do for the third and final entry in the Shinyaku series, but the next time we visit this franchise, it really will be the last time. So here's hoping it's a wild send-off. I hope this gets some of you to check the game out, and I hope it shows Gmod that we really love these re-releases and want to see more. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, it's Marsh. I'm back, but like way after finishing the video. I wanted to step back in and thank everyone again for watching this. I know the wait was pretty long, and I'm hoping my schedule will get more consistent here in the upcoming future. Fingers crossed, I think it will. This will be the first video I release since creating a Patreon for the channel, so here in the credits I'm gonna roll the names of everyone who subscribed to it since then. We'll start off with the highest paid tier, the Minotaurs, then the medium tier, Daedalus Tower residents, and finally, the entry-level Devil Buster tier. I have 3 paid options on my page with some small benefits, like longer posts about upcoming videos, some extra resources to share, and like I just said, and like you're seeing here, your name in one of 3 colors at the end of the video. My page is essentially like a tip jar for the channel, and I wasn't sure how much support this would get, but a lot of people expressed interest, and I've been pretty blown away by the results. So huge thanks, really. You have no idea how appreciative I am. The names as they're displayed here come straight from a report that I downloaded from Patreon. I looked it over and it should be showing everyone who's ever subscribed. whether your subscription's ongoing or you canceled it after 30 seconds. If you feel like your name shows up in the wrong spot, let me know, I can look into it, and I'll make sure it appears in a future video. So yeah, again, I'm hugely thankful of the audience I have here. Whether you donate or not, your viewership keeps this channel going. I have a lot of fun reading the comments, seeing your guys' interpretations on things I play, personal experiences with the games, and insights on things I've overlooked or gotten wrong. And I hope to keep doing this for a long time. I have a lot of stuff planned for the future, like years in advance, so we'll be going for a while. Anyway, till next time, huge thanks once again. See you guys soon.